Good guy. He coaches my boy.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the August 17th meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. Would you please stand for the prayer and the pledge? Today, the colors will be presented after the prayer by the Boy Scouts, and I've got the names here: Zachary Poche, Andrew Poche, Evan Tassan, Joseph Lambert, Kevin Lambert, Hayden Edmonds, Jacob Johnson, Ben Tomplay, and Connor Blanchard. And Councilman Cluot, if you will, lead us in the opening prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, I continue to ask, and we ask that you look upon the people of Ascension, carry them through this hurricane season unscathed. Lord, with this treacherous heat that we've been having, we ask that everyone look to the elderly and see if they need help. Lord, tonight we have a vast majority of youth in the parish here tonight for a goal that they want. We are so glad to have those folks here, and we're blessed with the Boy Scouts, the future leaders of America. We ask that you look upon all these families and those that are not here and guide them, and let's have a great season for soccer. Amen. Amen. Oh, we got a flag over here. We got a presentation.
Color guard. Attention. Forward march. Color guard halt. Post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, return to rank.
Okay, I want to thank the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Who's missing? Anybody missing? Travis. Okay, Madam Secretary, we have Mr. Turner is not here. So there are no chair additions, but I would like to announce for people that are here for the Wilson Road, that's item number 18. That's going to be passed tonight because the applicant pulled the agenda item. So if you're here for that, you're welcome to stay, but we won't have that tonight. Also, we're going to have to pass on item number 8. We have public comment. We have red and green cards at the podium. If you're in favor of something, grab a green card. If you're opposed, grab the red card, put the item number, and bring it to the secretary, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes to comment. Parish President's report, Mr. Matassa.
First of all, I would like to introduce everyone to our new HR director. I think a lot of you have met her already, Ms. Toledo Wesley. Did you come up? There she is. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you come on? And I think a lot of you have already met her, but this is Ms. Wesley, and she started Monday, and I'm glad to have her here.
I am so excited to be here and serving the people who serve Ascension Parish, and we've really already started to dive in deep and give a lot of attention to SSA's assessment of the parish and some of the concerns that administration and the employees have. So I'm really excited about the results that we'll soon see coming, working with Parish President on many of the new initiatives that we're having, along with Ken Dawson. So again, thank you. I know you guys have put me to task through some really tough interviews, some really fun interviews, getting to know and meet all of you as well. But I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to our service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard? True? Richard?
Open it up for it. There you go.
Come on. Before I do this presentation, Mr. Gotro worked with Lyle many years. I just wanted to say a few words about Lyle.
Thank you. My name is Richard Gotro, and I started with the parish in 2002, and Lyle Shakespeare took me under his wing pretty much. And he was an amazing man. He could get things done. He could, if you had an issue where you needed equipment or anything like that, Lyle was the person. And I know a lot of people, they're out at Lamar Dixon now, at the soccer field. Well, when we got here from the chapel, you couldn't see none of that. It was all wood. It had catch pins and all sorts of stuff in it. And Lyle loved to be on equipment, earth moving equipment. That was his biggest thrill. Even though he was a supervisor, he got on the equipment and pretty much made it the way it is now. I mean, they came in and did the soccer fields after he was gone, but the major work was headed up basically by Lyle Shakespeare. And Lyle was a guy that he had a lot of people working under him, and he never took notes. He never wrote nothing down, and he knew everything he needed to know. And if you asked him a question, he could answer it. He was a really awesome guy, and I think this dedication is well deserved for him. And he became a really great friend of mine. I really do. And he had a great life. He had a wonderful family, a beautiful wife, and he was just a people person. And that's about all I can say about him, but it's well deserved.
Thank you, Rich. Right. Thank you very much. Could the Shakespeare family come up? The Shakespeare family? Oh, I see you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Miss Shakespeare couldn't make it tonight. She's having therapy. Whereas Lyle Joseph Shakespeare was born August 20th, 1941 on Orange Grove Plantation in Burnside, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, and remained a lifelong resident of Ascension Parish. And whereas Lyle Shakespeare graduated from Ascension Catholic High School in 1959 and worked in various professions in various fields, all the while continuing to farm sugarcane, soybeans, and crawfish at LS Farms, the old family homestead at Orange Grove Plantation. And whereas Lyle Sheikh Snyder was beloved in Ascension Parish for his sense of humor, character, and for his work as a good Samaritan, Scoutmaster, Lions Club member, and an avid member of the Santa Maria Booster Club. And whereas Lyle Sheikh Snyder served as Assistant Director of Ascension Parish Recreation Department for 25 years, primarily making sure that kids and groups have safe, clean, and well-cared for places to play. And whereas Lyle Sheikh Snyder passed away on October 11th, 2014, leaving behind a legacy of service to the community, its youth, and athletes. Now, therefore, I, Kenny Matassa, President of Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby cause to be named Lyle Sheikh Snyder Parkway as primary means of access to the multi-use sports complex at Lamar Dixon Expo Center to honor the memory of this outstanding son of Ascension Parish. Thank you. Ascension Parish appreciates Lyle for everything he's done for us. And I'm going to tell you something. If you ever bought a ticket from Lyle for the Booster Club, he didn't even ask you. He just came, give it a check, give it a check. And nobody turned him down. So thank y'all for all of your dad's service. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I get y'all to stand things there with the parish president?
Any councilman want?
I just want to, you guys, I'm going to tell you what, the Sheikh Snyder family, y'all well embedded. Orange Grove for I don't know how many generations. But we had so much fun with Lyle over the years. Santa Maria Booster Club, the football games, the cigar hanging out his mouth. Just a great person and a joy to be around. He worked tirelessly. I've watched so many benefits of him sweating down, helping cook, helping work, and all you guys, your whole families, everybody involved. And we miss him. The Gator family misses him very, very much. And he is just, we pray for your mom, her health, and like I said, we could sit here all night and tell stories about Lyle Sheikh Snyder. And he could sit there all night and tell jokes, too. So, just a great guy.
I just got one question. What happened to all the hats?
They're boxed up. All 5,000
Yeah.
of them.
Right.
The whole ceiling in the house had hats on it.
Anybody needs
So-
5,000 baseball caps, we have them in the storage. Tell me where to get it.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let him. Well, just let Kenny finish, then we'll.
All right, can I get you to pretend you like him a little bit?
You my wife.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is the best looking Sheikh Snyders I've ever seen. I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kluot.
on behalf of all the residents of Santa Maria and the Gator Nation, I'd like to make this motion to dedicate that road in the name of Lyle Sheikh Snyder.
A motion by Mr. Kluot, second by Mr. Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you.
The only other thing I have is, Before everybody goes to sleep tonight and lay their head down, please say a prayer that that sun keeps shining for a little while, because it sure wasn't shining 1 year ago. And we pray for everybody that's still having problems. Thank you.
You're here.
Okay, Mr. Matassa or Mr. Dawson, we had talked about a report on the findings for the audit. Is it my understanding that that's in progress and will be presented at the next meeting? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, it will
Okay.
be presented at the next meeting.
Thank you. All right, item number 6, consent agenda. Roads for acceptance into the parish maintenance system, Halls of Dutchtown, Phase 1, Grand Hollow Avenue, 1,115 feet. Doe Run Drive, 1,053 feet. Twin Lakes Drive, 703 feet. Whispering Hollow Avenue, 1,003 feet. Cypress Hollow Avenue, 742 feet. Woodland Manor, second filing. Grand Wood Avenue, 662 feet. Majestic Wood Avenue, 1,705 feet. Item B, intergovernmental agreement between the Parish of Ascension and the City of Gonzales for Edenborn Extension. Item number C, resolution ENG-2017-102, project commitment for STP greater than 200,000 funding for fiscal years 2020, 2021, 2022. A commitment of local matching funds of 20% towards 3 proposals: preventative maintenance, preservation capacity, safety projects, transportation recommendation. Item D, amendment of contract for GSA engineers in the amount of $9,037 for additional design on LA 22. Item E, approval for parish president to sign contract for treatment of wastewater from St. Jude subdivision to Community Utilities of Louisiana, utilities recommendation. Item F, approval for parish president to sign contract with Community Utilities of Louisiana, Inc. for asset purchase of interconnecting equipment for St. Jude subdivision sewer, utilities recommendation. Item G, amendment number 1, the master contract for professional services for TMB water services for an additional $25,000, utilities recommendation. Item H, amendment to leased employee agreement by and between Our Lady of the Lake Ascension, LLC, doing business as St. Elizabeth Physicians and the Coroner's Office for the Parish of Ascension, acting by and through the Ascension Parish Council to increase the pay rate for leased employee Lynn Rice to $1,027.23 per month. Finance recommendation. Item I, agreement for the adjudicated and/or land bank property sale services between Ascension Parish Government and Orchon Information Systems, LLC, doing business as Civic Source. Finance recommendation. Item J, bid items to accept lowest responsive bid as follows. 1, galvanized and asphalt-coated corrugated metal pipe, Coastal Culvert and Supply, Inc. 2, corrugated polyethylene pipe, Sherlock tees, reducing tees and fittings, Simsco, Inc. Item 3, mosquito control chemicals, Univar USA, Adapco, Inc. 1 Toss and Sun Spray, Clark Mosquito, Gobert Oil, bituminous mixture for hot application, Barber Brothers Contracting, LLC, $52 per ton. 5, West Ascension Recreation, Fairfields, Fairgrounds, LED and box light sign, ENG 16-092, LED Incorporated, $49,545. Request for proposal, janitorial services at Lamar Dixon Expo Center, Jana King of Baton Rouge. Finance recommendation. Does any councilman wish to remove anything from the consent?
Motion to move the consent. Second. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Cagnolati to adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any opposition? The motion carries. Item number 7, general business. Cooperative endeavor agreement between the Parish of Ascension and the Gonzales Soccer Club. Mr. Kyle Rogers, and we have some public comment, Mr. Rogers, before we get started. So first we have Mr. Joshua Graham. Here you go.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for listening to us. Today I would like to talk to you under my 2 hats. First hat is as a longtime resident of Ascension Parish, been here most of my life, since the age of 12. In my adult life, I only left for 5.5 years when I served in the Marine Corps. When my wife and I had our children, have two boys, a 14 and 11-year-old. The first sport we looked into to getting our son in was soccer. It was the easiest sport, quickest sport that we can get in, and oh, by the way, I became a coach. At that point, I had no idea what soccer was. Grew up in Ascension Parish. I knew football, baseball, track, basketball. Soccer, didn't know it. I went and learned it, became a coach for my son, received multiple licenses, etc. And to this day, I still help coach my son's team, and it's just been a blast with Gonzales Soccer Club. Like I said, I have 2 kids. Some of the issues we faced was multiple parks, right? GSE has 4 parks, so there was times that I had to go coach one and not be able to be at the other. So that was one issue that we faced. So my wife would be at one, I'd be at the other. And I'll tell you, registering with a lot of different organizations here for Ascension Parish, it was just much easier registering with Gonzales Soccer Club with their streamlined ability to do online registration, et cetera. But I will tell you something about my son. We played all the sports. He played baseball. One of his passions was soccer and baseball. He made All-Stars 3 years in a row. His last year on playing baseball, he made All-Stars. He turned it down because of soccer. Again, as a parent and a coach, one of the things that I enjoy probably the most is that when I go to eat lunch with my kids at school, I get kids come up to me, hug me, thank you. So that's just something I really, really enjoy to do. Not to mention, I've had people actually call me that's left this state and play for a different state and tell me about their passion about soccer and that they like that I was a coach. So thanks to Gonzales for actually doing that for me. I only have a quick minute left, so I will tell you, as the VP of Operations, my main job as VP of Operations is scheduling. Scheduling for our 1,500 or so members, which equates to a total of 119 teams, okay? So over 4 different locations, that's complicated. Before I took over as VP of Ops, that was done on pencil and paper. Nowadays, we actually do it automatically. But one thing that I will tell you about our club, our board, is that we're passionate about our members. One thing that I would do is actually make sure that our coaches, if they coach multiple teams and parents, that they can make their child's team if it's in one location and other. Of course, with Lamar and this multi-year deal, that would make my job as VP of Ops a lot easier to do scheduling in one site, one location. So again, we're in favor of this. We hope that you like the contract and will give us a multi-year deal for the Lamar complex.
Okay, thank you. Next, James Flanagan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you first to the Recreation Committee for last night for having the leadership to pass this endeavor agreement onto the full council for tonight's discussion and vote. I really appreciate that work. I'm going to talk about 2 things here. I'm going to talk about the intangibles and the intangibles. So the tangibles are, I'm a parent. I have 3 children who play soccer for Gonzales soccer team. There's a sizable investment that I make each year for Leighton and John Patrick and Claire. That's tangible to me. All right. As a result, Gonzales Soccer Club also has tangibles, which they also will now be purchasing a new lightning detection system. They'll be creating the management of the fields, taking over the management of the fields, as well as providing some other tangible benefits if we include the work that we're doing with Donaldsonville and the outreach that we're doing there as well. All right. So if we expand that even further, the Parish of Ascension, through this council and the acceptance of this endeavor agreement, will enable that, and not only enable that for my family and for these families that we just talked about, but for all the families across the Ascension Parish. So let me talk to you about the intangibles. My kids are playing soccer for Gonzales Soccer Club because I want to develop, and I think you guys want to develop, children and citizens who can learn things like teamwork, who can learn things like competition, who can develop conflict, who can resolve conflict, who can see success, who can see failure and resolve what that failure looks like. They build creativity. The work that these gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen at this club are doing build this creativity. Problem solving. These are intangibles that this provides. The other thing is, I'm not from Ascension Parish originally. I've lived here for 4 years. This is my extended family now. Without this group, without Gonzales Soccer Club, this would not be possible for me to have the contacts and and make the acquaintances and the friends that I have through this time. So what I ask you today is really to support this endeavor, this cooperative endeavor, not just for the tangibles, but for these intangibles that I've talked about today. All right, because I know that through your leadership and through this acceptance of this endeavor, those intangibles will not only affect me and benefit me and my family, but will also benefit Gonzales Soccer Club, who's well represented here today, and more importantly, the entire parish of Ascension. So I thank you for your time, and good luck.
Thank you. So we have, usually we alternate between the proponents and opponents. I have an opponent, but he wishes not to speak, so I just want to record that. Then I have Mr. Daniel Nan. Is he present? Did you want to speak, Mr. Nan? You didn't check that off, but
yes, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Daniel Nan. Sorry, I don't want to accidentally misrepresent my organization, but I'm from the city of Baton Rouge with Baton Rouge Ultimate. When I entered 9th grade, I got, I was not athletic enough or had the athletic ability to make the soccer team at my high school. And there weren't that many avenues for other sports at my high school. I went to Baton Rouge Magnet High School, and no football, no basketball, no baseball, soccer. If you wanted to do something athletic, it was soccer. There was no other activity to do, and so I joined the Ultimate Frisbee Club my freshman year of high school. It allowed me the opportunities that all these people before me have said, developing competition, developing camaraderie, developing, communication skills. And although soccer wasn't available to me at my high school, Ultimate Frisbee was. I understand the point of this cooperative is to ensure that all these people, all these wonderful people have a single place to play soccer. But I also understand the difficulty in watching, Baton Rouge being taken over by, Baton Rouge Soccer Association. There is no place that you can go without field access in Baton Rouge, and it becomes really difficult for other sports such as lacrosse, Ultimate Frisbee, any field sports, field hockey, all these smaller sports that don't have a voice. It becomes really difficult for them to get any space, because if you needed space for a game, for a competition, for an organized event, you wouldn't be able to, because something like this happened in Baton Rouge. I ran a 50-team event called Mardi Gras Ultimate for the past 3 years at Lamar. The people are wonderful, you guys are wonderful, the administration is wonderful. And to see this complex be turning into what it might become, and from my perspective, is not, in my opinion, is not a good direction. To keep it open and to make sure that these smaller groups that want to make events, want to have organized competition, and to offer these kids other avenues other than soccer to use these fields is really important. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Green card, Mr. Easton Jarrow. Mr. Easton Jarrow.
Coming up.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see you, buddy. Are y'all all Easton Jarrows?
No. You got some background. You got a big background.
Hi, my name is Easton Jarrow. I've been playing soccer in Gonzales Soccer Club since I was 4 years old. I am one of the 2 captains on the Gonzales Soccer Club 2006 Blue Raptors, who are here with me today, along with my coach, Jose Bettino. He's back there. We play in Louisiana Competitive Soccer League in Comp 1, which is the highest level in the state. We have been looking forward to playing at the new Cajun Industries Soccer Complex at Lamar Dixon. We are also looking forward to being able to host tournaments here in Gonzales that will bring people from all over the state to play, stay, and eat in our parish, like we have been traveling to theirs. This soccer complex is important to the 1,500 soccer players that play in the Gonzales Soccer Club, and to the future players that will get to play here too. We would like to ask all of you to vote and make a long-term commitment to investing in soccer and youth of Ascension Parish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jarrow. I hope one day you'll be on this side of the podium.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't ask that of anybody.
And Jody Sheets.
Good evening. My name is Jody Sheets. I am first and foremost a parent of 3 girls who have been playing soccer with Gonzales Soccer Club since they were 4. They are now 17, 14, and almost 12. So that's a lot of time that we've been involved in this organization. With that being said, it has been a very positive experience for us. It's been a wonderful environment for my children to grow and learn and develop life skills through the sport of soccer. I'm very passionate about children. I'm also a nurse for the Ascension Parish School Board, and I have been working for the school board for almost 18 years now. As you know, we have a problem with children being inactive these days, so I'm very passionate about seeing children go out and enjoy their time on these fields. So my passion is really for the children. One thing that I have experienced through these years, as Mr. Graham has said, and we may have had a couple of people mention this last night as well, is the idea that we've had to go through multiple locations with multiple children. My husband and I try to spread ourselves as thin as we can to be able to be available for all of our children. There's nothing better than being available when your child is successful on a field or in school or whatever it may be, and they do something positive and they look over on the sideline and you're there. But whenever there are only 2 of us and 3 of them, we weren't always able to be there because we were at different locations. So the idea of being in one location for people that do have multiple children is a very positive thing for me. Just as I am passionate for the children, with my experience with the club, I thought it was very important for me to give back to the club. So a couple of years ago, I decided to join the board as a volunteer to be the voice for parents and for the children. And that has been a wonderful experience for me. I am working with professional soccer people, and I am not a professional soccer person by any means. I am a mother and a parent. And also a citizen in this parish, and I am very passionate about this parish. Passionate about the home that I grew up here. My family is from here. My husband's family are from here, and we would like to keep our children here in sports. And I think with the passion that we have, this organization has for the children and for these families, I just ask you to please consider a long-term agreement and relationship with this organization. I don't think you will be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker, Matthew Pryor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Matt Pryor. I'm the Vice President of Youth for Gonzales Soccer, and I'm really here to speak on behalf of the board. And I can tell you all that we heard yesterday, Mr. Graham read an email from Joey Gosha, who was the project manager at Cajun, who got this thing started several years ago. Cajun's intent was to contribute upwards of $600,000, over $600,000 worth of dirt work for a long-term home for Gonzales Soccer. Since that field's been almost done, since May, we've been in negotiations. I've been involved in every negotiation with the parish, with the people that we were directed to, Kyle Rogers first, then Mr. Parrington, and the administration on the legal. We even met with rec committee members, Mr. Turner, on Tuesday to get a deal worked out that would enable us as a club operating under Louisiana Soccer and under the United States Soccer Federation to move to Lamar-Dixon and move our whole operations there because it is a premier facility, and that's what the intent was always when it started out. The contract that we agreed to, the terms by which were passed unanimously by the rec committee yesterday, is what we need. Any restrictions on those usages that we talked about last night and debated would severely limit and may prohibit our ability to move out to Lamar-Dixon. As far as usage goes, ever since Gonzales Soccer Club has been operating, we've operated at multiple fields within the city of Gonzales, most of which were owned by the city of Gonzales. Whenever anybody asked to use those fields, the city said, call soccer first. Call them. And we have always accommodated other groups. Ultimate Frisbee, Mr. Nam, we will accommodate you. I make that pledge to you, sir. Flag football, the football tournament that was hosted in Gonzales several years ago, we've always accommodated them. We are not changing the way we operate. Our track record speaks for itself. What we need is a long-term commitment. What was negotiated, what was put in that agreement, that enables us to move out there. And it's all been done. We just need your approval on what's been done. The parish has been intimately involved with this. And other than that, I will answer any questions on behalf of the club that any of you may have about the agreement or about what we do. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pryor. And we have Mr. Kyle Rogers to represent Ascension Parish, going to say a few words, the director of Lamar-Dixon.
Good afternoon. We talked about this in depth last night. The contract is, the deal points, we'll start with just revenue. Revenue-wise, the parish will receive $5 per registered child from Gonzales Soccer. They will also receive 80% of all sponsorships sold on the multi-use sports complex. And in addition to that, the parish will retain all food and beverage. The expenses, the parish will take care of utilities. Gonzales Soccer will take care of 100% of maintenance. And that's pretty much the short of it. Is there any questions for you guys? I know everyone's kind of read the contract, so I don't want to be redundant.
Okay. Mr. Cluott.
Yeah, Kyle, we just getting the final version this evening, okay? So quick questions. Matt, I talked to you a little bit before the meeting. I just got some quick questions. It's a 5-year agreement?
It's a 5-year agreement.
Without me reading it right now.
It's a 5-year agreement with a 5-year renewal period. And the way we got to that, to let you know, we initially asked for 10 years. Kyle was agreeable to it. When we first had the preliminary things and we worked it out, it went to the administration. For whatever reason, the administration said we can't go 10, we can go 5 with an automatic renewal on 5 years. And here's the point of the time period. When you read that contract, over the course of the first 5 years, the investment that Gonzales Soccer is making will be upwards of $1 million when you include what we brought in from Cajun. You got their contribution. The maintenance of the fields, which we are going to take on, maintenance of the playing surface, 100% is our responsibility, is estimated between $80,000 and $100,000 per person, or per year, excuse me. There is a $5 per player fee. Right now that's about $7,500. Hopefully that'll grow, but multiply that by 5, you get about $35,000. And we're also making capital improvements. We want to make more capital improvements, but as a starter, we've purchased a $16,000 lightning detector, which goes for the use of anybody who ever uses that field. In fact, it goes for the use of anybody who uses Lamar-Dixon. The balloon festival's out there, lightning comes in, that detector's going to go off, say, guys, it's unsafe to be out here. So those are the capital investments that we're making. In addition, we're leaving what we have right now, which is basically use of the 4 facilities in the city. And I know for a fact that the city has plans for those facilities. So we have no fallback position. We're making a big investment with no place to go. And so we really need the 10 years. The 5 and 5, however it's structured, is good, but we're going to be there. We're going to show what it is. And we just can't go on just 5 years because it's too big of an investment for just 5 years. I mean, we have kids that are coming up, and we don't want to be told, sorry, guys, you got no place to play. 5 years is over, we're not renegotiating this contract. You got nowhere to play. You see that 5 plus 5, you see the return on that, and it's going to speak for itself.
So clarification, Mr. Cluott, the contract, and I'll read it to you. The term of this agreement shall be 5 years from the date of execution, with GSC having the right to renew for 1 5-year term under the terms and considerations set forth. Such renewal shall be activated automatically unless GSC gives 60 days notice of its intent not to renew. So the contract is 5 years. GSC has the right to renew, and the parish has no cancellation or renewal rights.
So are you saying that we have no cancellation, that y'all have, Gonzales Soccer has cancellation rights, we have no cancellation rights?
Go ahead.
We're not canceling.
Well,
We'll be there.
That's good.
We'll renew. It's on the record. I'm saying it on the
I
record.
think that was
Well, it's on the
directed at
record.
Mr. Rogers.
I'm just asking, like I said, I just got a contract here a couple minutes ago.
Right, yeah, that's the way it's
I'm not
read.
against it, I'm just asking. And
Unless there's a breach in contract, which I think is pretty common in all contracts. If there's a breach, then we can.
That's not written in there.
That's not in there.
there's nothing else.
There's nothing in there about a breach of
Other than the
contract.
5 and the guaranteed 5 if y'all elect to have the next 5. That's all that's written in there.
That's what was negotiated with the parish. As we went through the process with the administration, that was a compromise agreement that we took. Once the administration said, this is what we can do. We said,
Okay.
fine.
So that's what you negotiated between last night?
No,
Mr.
that's
Turner,
been,
and today?
that started out
with
in
Leo,
May.
with O'Neill.
And
Yes.
that provision
Okay.
got in, I think, early August, late July.
Okay. Another thing is, given the money that, Gonzales Soccer Club's you're gonna, just a total investment, you're making the move, you got a lot at stake. Okay, and, Joey and Cajun, the money that they put forward and the work they put forward for it, great organization. But the parish has over $4 million, of money invested, of all the members, all the citizens of the parish invested in it. So, please clarify for everybody watching, what are the restrictions of anybody else playing? I know you said that y'all gonna if somebody reaches out to you, that they can use the field. What are the true restrictions?
What are the
time is-
restrictions in terms of what?
Somebody else using the field, somebody other than the Gonzales Soccer Club.
We can book the field on any non-competitive dates, and it's not just non-competitive dates. If they have a tournament that only takes up 4 fields, we can book the other 3 for flag football, or for I just said flag football, but it could be rugby, it could be ultimate frisbee. It's not like all or nothing.
Okay, good deal.
And the money goes to recreation and not Lamar Dixon.
And I think they need to clarify as well, but it's at the discretion of GSC, right?
It's not the discretion. Only thing that's at the discretion, even in the a joint decision, is weather restrictions. Outside of that, I mean, you can't just say, no, you can't use it. If it's not being used, Lamar Dixon or Recreation has the right to book it.
Yeah, I just want to clear that up for everybody.
Councilman Turner from Recreation Committee. You had some questions?
Well, it's just as, it's the same question we brought up last night as for the determine the contract. I just don't know we have any other contracts with the parish where the parish doesn't have the option to get out the contract as well. I mean, because GSC is asking us to trust them, but it seems as if GSC doesn't trust the parish to do the right thing with the soccer facility when we don't have the option to get out the contract as well at 5 years, or at least evaluate the contract at 5 years. Because as of right now, it doesn't. If we feel like it's a bad deal at 5 years, we can't do nothing about it.
Councilman Turner, I would note that you approved it last night, but aside from that factor, what is always worrisome is that in 5 years, somebody else may come in and make a better deal. And Gonzales Soccer, who currently and for as long as we've been in existence, has been the only organization in the parish to provide soccer. We provide it to a lot of kids, many of whom are here tonight. But to come in 5 years after we've invested close to $1 million and say, sorry guys, you don't have a place to play. That's really a tough risk you're asking us to take. And I'm not saying that you intend to do that, but you and I both know you're a lawyer, you're a very good lawyer. You've seen stuff that the things that aren't supposed to happen, happen. And so my position is on this was what we were negotiated. I'll be happy to take 10 years. I'll be happy to take, it renews automatically and take out unless GSC notifies within 60 days. We just have an automatic renewal. However you want to do it to put it on equal playing field, but I don't think it's fair, and it puts us on a very heavy restriction, and it almost makes it impossible for us to move out there, for you to reserve the right to tell these kids, some of whom are 4 years old, hey, when you're 11, you may not have a place to play soccer. That's what we want to do. We want to ensure a place to play soccer for these kids for the long haul. That was the intent when we started this project years ago. It was the intent for Cajun getting involved in it. It is our intent. That's what we want. We want to secure the long-term home for soccer in Ascension Parish. And we call ourselves Gonzales Soccer Club now. That's a historical thing. At the end of 5 years, we're not going to be the Gonzales Soccer Club. We're going to be the Ascension Parish Soccer Club or some variation where our name depicts that we serve the entire parish.
Okay, Councilman, are you finished, Mr. Turner? You can have another turn later if you like.
Well, I was going to try to hold my tongue on this part, but I'm not now. It's disingenuous to try to use the kids as a hammer to try to beat us over the head. If part of the contract we think it's not fair. Nobody's saying the kids can't go on the soccer field. We've always said they can go on the soccer fields to play soccer. So to do that, I feel is disingenuous and is the wrong thing to try to do.
Mr. Satterley.
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Satterley. I don't think we had a question. Mr. Satterley.
You don't want him to respond, Mr. Chairman?
Well, there was no question. I didn't hear a question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for recognizing me. Mr. Pryor, I fully realize that you have promised, I'm going to just use your word that I captured here, accommodation to the parish if this contract is executed, this cooperative endeavor agreement, I guess, just like the Gonzales Soccer Club apparently is, by your testimony, currently doing with the city of Gonzales. But I do have a small issue. Hopefully it's not going to develop tonight into a major one, along the lines of what Mr. Turner has spoke about, which the note I captured is sort of like a one-sided trust here. I, too, have never seen a contract where both parties, regardless who they are, and you can read this in Donald Trump's, hesitate to put his name out there, Art of the Deal. They usually have these, quote, no breach of contract type clauses. So with that, I would ask you the following. Suppose you guys meaning the Gonzales Soccer Club, don't maintain the field. And before you answer, there's more. Maybe you don't deliver enough of this $5 per player revenues that's been promised, that all told with the 80% and our being able to sell concessions, and our only expense you indicated is utilities, but you guys pay maintenance for the field, et cetera, on the money side of it. But, and I haven't listened to the entire meeting, but I've heard this testimony before, I think from Mr. Lawler, who preaches this a lot, that we will realize when it's all said and done as much as $250,000, $250,000 a year by doing this deal. But again, suppose, and on the maintenance thing of the field too, who defines this threshold of sufficient maintenance? Does GSC do this? Sounds like it, since you have totally control. Or can the parish still complain and say, and I realize you're going to say, why would we not maintain our fields when we want to play on them and so forth and so on, but you know, there are strong clauses under 4-use A, GSC exclusive use playing season, subparts 2 and 3, where I read, and I want this in the record, the right to prohibit the use of the soccer fields by any other organization, and that's under the use includes by the Gonzales Soccer Club. It's not limited to that. So you've got the right to do that, limit other organizations. And the right to close the soccer facilities, here's a tough 3 words, for any reason, quote unquote, including conditions of field, weather, and other considerations. And certainly we all don't want lightning to strike our children regardless of whatever, and not play on necessarily a muddy field where somebody can break a leg and all that, but for any reason it's kind of tough. And then last but not least, it says on the next page, GSC will make every effort to accommodate the parish when practical. I'm not sure who defines practical for the use of such fields or fields. So I do believe there's a great bit of trust here, and all I would ask is that from everybody up here, out there, I'm not here tonight to end this potentially wonderful thing, which apparently has been wonderful for Gonzales, but can we come up with any alternative language? Just because it got through the Recreation Committee, and that just because Mr. Parrington, and I appreciate his efforts, has taken a look at it and has worked with you, and I don't know who's the big author of this, whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that we have in front of us a final product that's just the best for all the parties involved. And I would close with this and let you answer these questions I've asked. This is not a big deal, frankly, for me in a 70769 zip code in Prairieville. The reason I say that is when we had the, not lanes to change, what was it, Better Recreation Now request for taxes, one of the things in that program was a multi-use soccer field at Lamar Dixon and other things. And that was, of course, roundly defeated at the ballot box because the people didn't want to pay the taxes and all for it. But I went to many of the public comment periods, certainly the one in my neck of the woods at Oak Grove in Prairieville, in the 70769 zip code. And I heard citizen after citizen get up and say, and I see this again because I put it on my website just last night. I was kind of late to the party, not thinking this would even be controversial, polling my folks, which is something I always do. But that, you know, by the time I get home, Dr. Sadley, and I dress my children, and I go out to play soccer, I tend to go toward Baton Rouge and play at Breck because there's no way in the nightmarish traffic that I'm going to get out to Lamar Dixon in time for it to be dark. But then I'm told, I spoke with Mr. Jarrett Moss today and others in the GSC organization. For those at home, since I dropped the name, that's another person like Matt, I guess, that's involved at a leadership level. Well, actually, the Gonzales Soccer Club is a misnomer, and that's the idea of changing it in 2 years. And I understand why you can't do it immediately. You just had to put that in the record of uniform change. It cycles every 2 years. The uniforms are expensive. I'm fine with that. It looked like there could be a concession there. Well, Doc, would you want 1 year? No, I'm not here to do that either. But the whole reality of it is that how do we deal with this exclusion of a public facility of our people that are writing me and saying, you know, that historically adjacent cities, parishes, whatever, that have embraced the concept of a public-private partnership with a soccer club, almost invariably, are they lying about this? Get to a point to where the club controls it and it's no longer a public facility, and they feel like, look, it's great that they've given all this money. We might realize the $250, we might not. It's great that the Cajun moved the mud around and so forth and so on. But it really is a parish facility, and it originally cost the parish, in addition to these monies I just mentioned, several $1 million to build these fields, and we took it out of the taxpayer money. Trust me, we have no other source of funding, even though they turned the tax down. So I know that was long-winded, but go back to the questions of who decides if the maintenance is up to snuff? What happens if you don't deliver the $5? Is there any chance we can have alternate language here that would take care of Mr. Turner's issue of no breach in contract without sinking the ship here? 10 years is a long period of time, and I thank everyone for listening.
Trying to address those as they came up. Before that, I will say that what we do, and this board of directors right here, what we do is for the kids. We're not out here for our own glory or for whatever. We do it for the kids. That's why I'm involved. My kids played soccer. My daughter still plays soccer. I've seen what it did for my kids, and I want that to happen to all the kids. So, and I'm going to answer your question right now, Councilman Satterley. You know, if there's any breach of the agreement, breach of the contract, it grounds for rescission of the contract. Maintaining the fields, they're premier level fields. We want to keep them at premier level fields. We want to keep them like they are. That language is replete throughout this contract, that in recognition that the parish did spend a lot of money to get fields that are the highest quality, and the reason that we want to take on the responsibility of maintaining them is to keep them at that high level quality. One of the things that we deal with in the city, and the city has been very wonderful to us over the years, but they bring in tractors that cut ditches to do the major mowing on those fields, and there's cross-pollination, there's grass that's dying, there's sinkholes out there. We don't want to deal with that. We have the expertise on the board. We know where to find the expertise if we don't have it to maintain those fields as they are constructed. And if we don't, Councilman Satterley, call us back in and say, why aren't you living up to your end of the bargain? And we'll account for that. We have to account for that. And if we're not, then that's a breach, and you can deal with that as you see fit. The $5 per player, That was the fee agreed to. Again, it was a negotiated fee. The 1,500 or so families that we service are all taxpayers. So their money, my money, was used to pay for that facility, as was all the taxpayer money, but we're paying an additional $5 fee on top of that. As for what Kyle has mentioned about the advertising, I am relying on the fact that the parish did its due diligence, that Kyle knows what he's talking about, knows not only what the value of the advertising is with the numbers that we have, but knows how to exploit that, because that's his job, and I can only rely on the experts in that field, who I believe Kyle is part of. Again, I would say, and I'm sure Kyle would agree with this, although I don't speak for him, if he's not doing his job, I think he'd have to account for that. But as far as I can tell, since he's been there, Lamar Dixon has been steadily improving. So those are the safeguards. There is always, for breach of contract, rescission is possible. But I would go back, Councilman Satterley, and I rely on our track record as to how we've operated since we've been in existence. Even before I came on the board, which I'm the longest tenured person on the board currently, Gonzales Soccer has always been working with its parent government subdivision. When we put in a lot of money at TJO for lights, refurbished Carver Park, I mean, there's been a lot, and it's well documented. We've used it. We've always been very accommodating to everybody. During our playing seasons, which are defined in there, when we have all of our kids out every night, twice a week, for training purposes, we have games every weekend. I don't know if you've been out to Burnside on Sunday afternoon for our little kids when they play. It's jam-packed. We have to be able to say no to anybody who wants to use it when our teams are out there practicing. And more importantly, and I know this has happened, a few years ago we had a situation where another club came in and was using, a club from West Baton Rouge Parish was using public facilities, nobody ever found out about it, to practice a team that they had. We're not going to let that happen. I mean, and that may sound really harsh, but I'm protective of my club, of these kids that we're out here for. I don't want any other club coming in and saying, hey, we have Ascension Parish kids on our teams, we want to practice on these facilities. We're the club in Ascension Parish. And that's what we want established, and the parish to back up on us. And yes, that includes the right. Now the part you read was during our playing seasons. During the off season, and we don't have an off season for soccer, there's going to be high school tournaments going on. That's another organization that's not affiliated with GSC, but they need soccer fields, especially at the beginning of soccer season, because it coincides with the end of football season. And most of our teams are in playoffs, so guess what? Their football stadium is being used, and Santa Ma's not going to give up their football stadium for a playoff game to accommodate soccer. So they come out to us. We're going to let them play. There's no question about it. We've had schools in the parish contact us about hosting tournaments. We're going to let them play. So during the so-called non-playing season, the only thing we've asked is that from Lamar Dixon, just coordinate with us so it's not getting over something. Kyle and Jared Moss, who's our club president, he's not only in the leadership, he is the leadership, have been in communication today about those very things. We don't want it to conflict, it's just we're going to schedule it together. And then we have to have the ability to shut down the fields when, I will use rain as an example because everybody understands rain. It could rain for 4 days and those fields become unplayable. If there's a tournament, if Ultimate's scheduled out there for a weekend and the fields become unplayable, we got to tell them no. We don't want to, but we got to, so that high level playing surface is preserved. That's all we've said. That's all we want, is that ability to keep the fields at the level that they were constructed at. That's what we want to do, to preserve the investment that you have made.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I got to admit, I'm a lot more comfortable with this before this afternoon, sort of like the comment Mr. Turner made a minute ago, like, okay, now I think we're stepping over the line. Let me be clear about this, okay? I, too, do not like using the children, period. Every child that I see out there, and I don't know if the camera's panned around the room, there are many, 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 is deserving of all possible chance to play at a premier soccer facility, basketball, baseball, whatever. It's an important and vital piece. But the problem is, every time that I vote against something, I'll just give some quick examples. Doc hates firemen because he doesn't support two 10-mil millages and a parcel fee in his parish, when no one else is paying 20 mils plus a parcel fee. Well, they feed the parcel fee last time. In fact, some people are paying for fire protection with the same rating as we got up in Beeville, and it's all volunteer and they don't pay any taxes. Doc's against the judiciary because he doesn't support, building a new courtroom. Doc is against recreation, particularly at Lamar Dixon, and therefore he's against children. Well, I'm not against children. I'm not against our brave firemen and so forth, and I'm not against our judiciary system. You're an attorney in any way. But you just said, Mr. Pryor, and I'm going to quote you, any breach in this cooperative endeavor agreement is grounds for rescission of the contract. Frankly, I just don't see that language anywhere in this contract.
Well, that's the law.
Let me finish, although you believe that that'd be the case. So again, I say, why not? I'm trying to fix this so we can have this tonight. If you haven't figured that part out, why not get some sort of language in there? You're an attorney, Mr. Parrish is an attorney, Mr. Turner's an attorney. I've got another attorney down here, Mr. Lawler, and so forth. That would just say that you also trust the parish like you're asking us to trust you. But if we breach, you can take us to court. Just like you're trying to say that we could do the same. Now, if everybody's trustworthy and everybody loves the children and nobody wants to do anything wrong, why can't we just have the mutual trust specified in the contract? And that's just a good business deal. Again, that's in the heart of the deal with Mr. Trump.
Would you like a clause that says any breach of the terms of this agreement?
I never said the language. I'm not going to offer that. But I'm just saying, I'm asking, is there anything that can be done? If your answer is no, there isn't, then I guess we need to move on to the next council.
I think everybody on the board is comfortable with the statement that any breach of the terms of the agreement is grounds for rescission of the agreement. I think that's, I don't think it's necessary because I think that's the law. I think if the parish thought we were in breach and proved that we were in breach, then yes, the contract would be rescinded. But if you want, if that makes it more palatable or gets it passed, I wouldn't have any problem. I'd recommend it to the board right now. In fact, I'd tell them.
And I appreciate that. I really do, Matt. So I guess I'd just ask that question right now to our own legal counsel on, quote, our side of the aisle. I mean, is it correct to say that if there's a breach, without going to court, we can just terminate this contract without said language being in there?
Well, a breach is a question of fact. So if you have a decision, you're going to have to prove it. If we feel they don't maintain those fields in premier condition, we would notify them you're in breach of contract, and if they didn't resolve it, we could put them off. I don't think that needs to be in the contract, but if you want it in there, we can clearly put it in, because if that's their key agreement, is that they're agreeing to keep those fields in premier condition.
Okay, thank both of you. That, by the way, that's all I was asking, okay?
And
let me go on record again to say, 9 times out of 10, Doc Sadley is an ignorant beast, and I've said this before, awaiting my education. But once educated, I have to decide, do I buy into this education, or am I being sold, an ounce of you-know-what in a bigger forest?
And let me just say, Councilman
Councilman Lawler. My job is to protect the people, their health, safety, and welfare. You know that. We repeat this all the time. So I just want to be sure that everybody's trusting everything and everything's going to be all right. Mr. Parrington, you were both saying we don't need extra language, so if we don't, so be it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Lawler.
First of all, is anybody here from area code 70769? Yes. Thank you all. Yeah, I just want to say a couple brief things. First of all, I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and very briefly just tell me about the top soccer program and what that is, because it's my understanding that that's something that really the parish is not providing in any sport.
Yeah, that's correct, Councilman Lawler. The top soccer program, 2 weekends ago, I spent my weekend in Metairie receiving my top soccer certification. This has been something that myself and club president Jared Moss have been speaking frequently about getting over these last 2 years, and that is providing disabled athletes with the correct facilities to play soccer. There is not one sport in this parish that provides disabled athletes the right equipment, the right facilities. I'm certified in that now, and it is at the top of my list to get done. This isn't just good for Gonzales Soccer Club, this is good for Ascension Parish Recreation on a whole. If football, baseball, basketball come to me and want to create a program for their disabled athletes, I will be more than happy to bring them down to Lamar Dixon soccer fields and show them how we can do it. And then we can help baseball, basketball and football in this parish at creating opportunities for disabled athletes that nobody is giving right now in this parish. We cannot do it at our current sites. Why? Because they fail the checklist. They're not safe enough. We don't have disabled facilities. We don't have disabled bathroom spaces. At the new facilities, we will be the only sport in Ascension Parish that provides opportunities to disabled athletes.
Thank you, Bobby. I just want to say that this contract, in my eyes, is not just about soccer. Because with the revenue that will come into our recreation department, this is about softball and baseball and football, ultimate frisbee, volleyball, dog parks, walking trails, performing arts. We're putting more money into recreation. And that is something that I've heard many times that, man, we don't have the tax money to do it. But you know what? This isn't going to be tax money. We're going to be able to do this without adding additional taxes. We're going to put more money into recreation. And Mr. Nam, I have spoken with members of Gonzales Soccer about the Mardi Gras weekend already. I intervened on your behalf. I hope you don't mind, because I know other people that are involved. The Saturday and Sunday before Mardi Gras, try and get that open for you. I don't think there's an issue with it, in fact, because y'all have that tournament, man, get out there and do it. And what I'd like to see, I know a lot of boys and girls out here who would love to see ultimate frisbee and get involved in it also. So maybe y'all could work out something where you're out there at the same time as them, showing kids how to do it. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the cooperative agreement as amended. Second. We have a second.
I have a motion by Councilman Lawler to accept the amended. Is that what your motion is, as amended?
I'll let you read
So I wanted to, and a second by Councilman Lambert. I wanted to, take a minute and point your attention to this is what has a draft on the watermark, and so these are some amendments that the administration and ourselves worked out earlier today. So under item F, there was a change in the park naming rights. First, let me call your attention to the second paragraph in number 1 in the agreement. This is what calls for allows us to audit, and this is a result of the Recreation Committee last night, so this was incorporated into the language. Now back to F, where you can see there's a strike through and the inserts are underlined there. So I'll read that to you. This briefly, and made a certain agreement with Cajun Industries regarding the naming of the soccer facilities in which this is new language in which GSC may refer to the facilities as Cajun Fields in their literature. The parish, and then strike through the next 6 words, has no objection to such, and then the rest of that remains the same. And then when you go to the second amendment to this is an indemnification added to the last page, so this would be item G, indemnification. That's under Roman numeral number 5. And this is, and if you have some questions about that, I will read it. GSC shall indemnify and hold harmless the parish from and against any and all claims, liabilities, damages, and expenses, including without limitation reasonable attorney fees and expenses incurred by the parish, its officers, directors, employees, or agents arising out of any inaccurate, fraudulent, or illegal billing practices by GSC. The parish shall indemnify and hold harmless GSC from and against any and all claims, liabilities, damages, and expenses, including without limitation reasonable attorney fees and expenses incurred by GSC, its employees, agents arising out of any inaccurate, fraudulent, or illegal billing practices by or on behalf of the parish. This was, and I think if you have a question on that, we can direct that to Mr. Parrington. This is the amended, this is as amended, so we have a motion by Councilman Lawler, a second by Councilman Todd Lambert to adopt the amendments. Now let's remember this is only adopting the amendments, and we still will have to come back and adopt the agreement as amended if this is approved. So I'll open the floor up for discussion on the amendments, and have Councilman Joseph was first, if you don't mind.
Well, my original thing wasn't about the amendment. It was just about the contract period.
Okay.
Okay, and so my biggest thing is on this, and as you know, last night we had a discussion about this here before, and I think Mr. Kluat brought the concern, Mr. Turner brought the concern, and Doc brought the concern. I just want to let them know, this contract go through as is with that statement. With the parish parish don't have any negotiation after 5 years. I mean, it's a one-way statement on this contract. Just knowing that any other further organization that come here, they would have that right to do the same thing. Okay? And I just don't think that we, you know, this contract is good as they want it, because it's Gonzalez soccer team. But that statement in there at the end of it, that we have no right to negotiate in 60 days by writing or not, once again, we approve this, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get approved. But just remember, other organizations come here, they will use this on us. Just remember that, King. That's all I'm going to say.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
I got one question on that, and, you know, yeah, they're going to, you know, use it, but, and I think no other organization out there that comes to us is going to give us back what this organization is going to give us in funding. They're giving up 80% of, you know, sponsorships. They're giving up concessions. All the other organizations don't do that. So in 10-year period, that's quite a few. Kyle can probably give us the numbers. It's going to be quite a chunk of change that's put back in our recreation program, not Lamar Dixon. So, you know, just to state that this is a special organization here. It's not like what normally an organization comes to us. There's no funding back to us. It's usually funding out of our pocket. It's a little different. So just want to stress that. And as far as the kids are here for a reason. We moved on renovating a gym at Lamar Dixon. They had kids here when that got approved also. Just want to make that note.
Councilwoman Casso.
Kyle, is this typical of the public-private partnerships that you researched throughout the region regarding this kind of contract?
I feel like this is more beneficial than the ones I've researched.
Okay, thank you. In having answered that question that way, I want to express my confidence in the leadership of this organization. Many of you in this room I have known for many years. I have confidence in you. You have certainly placed confidence in me over the years. So I believe in your commitment to our children. I believe in your commitment to our parish. Many of you I see in other capacities. And so I want to assure you of my support for this long-term agreement.
Councilman Kluat.
Once again, Matt, Kyle, I'm here tonight to try to hammer it, okay? And unlike somebody else, I think we got a lot of parents in here and children from the 70774 also, you know? So, and a lot of you guys, I see some coaches and parents that probably played with my children. I've been going to soccer games for over 20 years here in Ascension Parish. And I think that my children would be very proud to be playing on a flat field where the goalkeeper can actually see the other goalkeeper on the other end of the field instead of the turtleback football fields that we have. And it's wide enough to set up a good defense. You know, just a good facility. And I'm very proud of this. And you guys are a good group of people. The challenge here tonight, and we will reach an agreement tonight, but challenge here tonight is that we're giving most of the control over a parish facility to a single organization. And you know, just dotting I's and crossing the T's is what we're looking here for tonight. You and I talked before the meeting about insurance. You feel like insurance is going to be squared up?
Insurance will be squared up. We
Yeah.
are insured by Louisiana Soccer or Louisiana Soccer. We're going to meet with them to see what specifically that covers. We'll take that to Kyle. Any requirements that are not covered by the LSA policy, we will cover. We will get it covered. We will live by what everybody else has to live with.
We
No
appreciate
question.
once again, I want to appreciate your statement on working with high schools or the schools in general.
Absolutely. Not an issue.
Because, you know, that those club sports in the schools have grown tremendously. And, you know, it goes on from there.
And we did, Councilman Kluat, just to let you know, we had conversations with the northeastern sport they cradle the stick with. I can't think of it. Lacrosse. Thank you.
Lacrosse.
We had conversations with Dutchtown Lacrosse last night. We're going to accommodate them. It's not an issue. That's what we're about. And then
we're getting a stronger interest in lacrosse, and that looks like
is.
something that I would have enjoyed back when I could actually run and play.
We're no objection, and we want to accommodate them.
But once, you know, like I said, I want to re-emphasize, as elected official and representative of the people, we represent all the people. And, you know, naturally when, you know, I don't mind telling you, I was one of the members that fought the hard battle to accommodate and to acquire Lamar Dixon. Kyle can tell you, just since he's been there, you know, if we got 5 or 10 people that got horses and they want to go rope on a Wednesday night, I will work with Kyle to try to make that available to them. So you can well believe, as enthused as you guys are with soccer, that there's somebody else and there's going to be some splitting of the ways and things like that. So there's going to be another soccer association probably try to develop or something like that, and they're going to turn to us and say, hey, that's a public facility, you know, why can't we use it? Actually, so Kyle, go ahead and answer that for me.
We do this 350 times a year. This is just I think the use of this facility is maybe alarming because it's one entity using it so much. But I can promise you, if I try to put in another sportsman show in February, there's protection clauses in those contracts. And when those guys are on site for that week or 4 days, they're not going to let me just let anybody go into the 4-H building. So we do these types of contracts over 300 times a year with different events. If I wanted to bring in George Strait 3 days before Sam Hunt, I would get killed by Pie Entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, there are types of, like we do every day. This just happens to be a longer distance than an individual event.
You know, and as good stewards, I'm just asking, yeah, gonna, because I was out there when they were building it. I looked at the drainage. It's very hard. We hope that the whole land mass stays drained, because I know you're equipped for the fields. But one of the things we have at our other recreation facilities is we've got a lack of security sometimes. We got somebody that just loves to go cut donuts in a car or truck on the field. I hope we got enough fences and bollards to keep that out, and but wish y'all luck.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion, questions? Councilman Cagnolati.
Yeah, we're entering new territory here. You know, I'm new to the council, my first term. I think that I've never heard of anything in Ascension Parish when it came to recreation other than what we have to spend to maintain the facilities, and here's an organization that's going to maintain it for us and generate revenue, and that's a new idea for recreation in Ascension Parish, so I'm in full support of it.
Okay, further discussion, further questions? We have Councilman Lambert.
One quick thing about vandalism, we do have the sheriff's department right across the street from us over there, so I think they can be well watched.
And it is currently fenced off.
And yeah,
The roads
it
can be
is
closed
fenced.
off with a fence.
It will be fenced off also.
Yeah, I just got that note.
Mr. Chairman.
Parish President.
First of all, let me say to the youth council that when I first heard it 10 years, and I said, wow, that's a long time. I don't know if we never did a 10-year contract. I don't know. So after talking with Mr. Pryor on why the 10 years, when they walk out of the city of Gonzales, those fields are gone forever. So 10 years is not a long time. But I can attest to you that this, in my 19 years as being on the city council in Gonzales, this is the only organization that spent a lot of money on those fields in Gonzales. When they came to us to put lights at Pijo, I think they paid for half of them. You know, and so they always good stewards. If they say something, they're going to do it. And I mean, I have no problem with this organization. Secure, like we brought up about the handicap. They mean that. They're not just saying it. So, I just hope everybody can vote on this contract tonight, and let's move on. Let them play.
Okay. Further discussion, any further discussion, any further questions? So we have a motion and a second to adopt these amendments as handed. Is there any opposition to the amendments? Hearing none, the amendments are adopted. We have Mr. Lawler.
I move to adopt the contract.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Lawler. I think I heard it on this side.
I'm happy to share it with Dr. Sapp.
Give it to Councilman Turner. He's chairman of Recreation.
There you go.
Councilman Turner seconded to adopt the contract. Is there any discussion on the contract itself?
I just would like to thank the association for being a professional group and well-mannered group coming to this council, and just thank y'all for what y'all do.
Okay, so I'll take the last discussion, and I'd also like to echo what Councilman Lambert said, and I really appreciate, no matter what it is, that all the young people come out here and you see how the sausage is made here so sometimes it's not pretty, but it's the way our democracy works, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys are here to learn, and hopefully you'll come out of this with smiling faces one way or another. And I too am not completely happy with the contractual language. If this were my contract, I'd certainly propose some revisions to it. But I'll say this, and I'm going to vote in favor of it because I'm going to put my trust in Kyle and what he's recommended and what the Soccer Association has committed to. And so that's all of my comments. Any further comments, any further discussion, any further questions? Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion is adopted. So what I'd like to do, thank you guys. I'd like to take about a 2-minute recess, and you guys are welcome to stay. We'd love to have you.
Go do homework.
not during Highway 73, hospital.
We're back on.
Put a card in.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order.
Mr. Chairman, you don't have a quorum?
They're coming. I trust them.
My wife didn't even stay to tell me goodbye. Say, come on.
That's all right, I talked to her before the meeting.
She's a handful.
One of the good-looking soccer moms.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item number 8 was passed on, but no responsive bids. Item number 9, approval of substantial completion, ENG-15 Oak Grove wastewater treatment expansion, Greater Crawford Construction Company. Carl, do you, Mr. Dawson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Oak Grove treatment plant that's taking in those tail lines over on Highway 42. That's connected to it. It was substantially complete. Basically, they said that they have a few punch list items to get done. Weather has kept them from completing it, but they feel that barring any substantial rain next week, they should be able to get everything done for us, the punch list items, in about a week and a half.
Okay, Mr. Sadler, you had a question?
No.
I'm sorry.
Motion approved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnalotti. Any questions? Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, Mr. Dawson.
Sir.
On this system right now, that's on 42, how many customers we added on to this?
But the system was expanded to just take care of the tail lines on 42. There's about just 80 to 85 customers that's going into that system.
All right, but so that number is growing, because at one time, if we're not mistaken, it was like 26, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit more.
Yeah,
It's about
yeah,
80
well, it was
now.
around 40-something on the original 42. 20-something was on the Highway 73.
So we're seeing people hook up, good.
Yeah.
Any further questions, discussion? Motion and second, any opposition? Motion carries. Item number 10, approval of substantial completion Keystone Pavilion Project, Getro General Contractors, Ricky DeArmond.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Lambert, second by Councilwoman Casso. Any discussion? Any questions, any opposition? Motion carries. Item number 11, approval of intergovernmental agreement between Ascension Parish Government and Ascension St. James Airport and Transportation Authority to transfer title of a surplus Jeep Liberty in exchange for specified services. Rick Weber.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion, any questions, any opposition? Motion's adopted. Approval of grant award in the amount of $33,249.97 for the fiscal year 2017 Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG, and to authorize Parish President Kenny Matassa to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this application, and/or Ms. Gwen LeBlanc, CFO, for financial documents, Martha Collins. Motion by Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Cagnalotti. Any questions, any discussion, any opposition? Motion carries. What's our next 14? 13, approval of the Quick Start Immediate Action Projects for issuance to design consultants, Roddy Road Corridor Project, Henry Road, 15, okay. Safety widening, Highway 929, Parker Road Roundabout, and Ashland St. Landry Connector, Mr. Mike Enlow.
Good evening, Council. This item was before you, the Transportation Committee in May. These are the 4 projects that are in the Move Ascension initiative. That initiative is basically a group of projects that we're going to construct. We're going to get design and pre-construction activities completed before December 2018. That's our plan. We're working on a budget and a program budget and program schedule in detail for this committee, this council, and we're looking to get those approved tonight and move forward with issuing task orders to our consultants.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilwoman Casso. Any discussion? Any questions? Any opposition? Thank you, Mr. Enlow. Motion carries. Item number 14, and we have...
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I'm honored to serve as the board chair of St. Elizabeth Hospital, and at this time I'm conflicted out of any further discussion of this matter, and I'm ethically bound to recuse, and I'll be leaving to the side room.
Thank you, Ms.
Excuse me.
Cazzo. We have a speaker on item number 14, and I'll read the item. Resolution of Planning Commission to recommend to the Parish Council approve the allocation of funding to hire a consultant to update the parish master land use plan and zoning ordinance. And first we have Speaker Ms. Goppel.
Good evening, council members. The Planning Commission by law is responsible to update the master plan. Their effort to do so is appreciated. However, the price tag of $450,000 is wasteful, inefficient, and unnecessary. The 1998 Ascension adopted a master plan for land use. This plan was a community effort with numerous meetings throughout the entire parish. What resulted was a vision of the parish from residents who live here. In 2010, the administration hired an outside consultant and paid $350,000 to update the master plan, and an additional $150,000 to CPEX of Baton Rouge for administrative costs. We were given a boilerplate revision that did not reflect the vision of the residents. The people strongly rejected that plan. The council wisely never voted to adopt this first revision, sending it to the black hole of the Strategic Planning Committee. The Planning Commission then took responsibility to appoint interested citizens from business, education, and the community to sit as a body and update the master plan. Then, Parish President Martinez refused to allocate the requested $27,000 to do an in-house revision. Shortly after, the Parish Council removed the entire commission. The problem is not the 1998 plan. Had the commissioners this council appointed followed our current law in the master plan over the past 20 years, our development woes would not be what they are today. What makes you think by throwing another $450,000 at the problem you'll solve anything? Voters are sick and tired of watching this council spend more of our tax dollars for another useless study. Residents want to see money spent for actual infrastructure projects. Residents have been continually pushed aside, ignored, and trampled on by the travesty of the process. What makes this entire scenario so absurd is that our taxpayer dollars continue to be wasted, and we have to live with the destruction of our beloved parish. If you vote to waste another $450,000 of the people's money on another outside consultant, the council will deserve the continued distrust of the public. A better alternative would be for you to request the Planning Commission consider an in-house revision that will cost much less, and most of all, will reflect the will and vision of the people. Thank you.
Okay, that's the only speaker we had for this tonight. Mr. Fournier, the resolution is attached to your to your agenda. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Fournier? We have a motion. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati.
Second.
A second by Mr. Lawler. Now we have discussion. Mr. Councilman Satterley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the main problem that I have with this item is that the parish continues to do study after study after study, and afterwards implement no improvements. The public, as I am, frankly, are sick and tired of such activities. To start with, we already have a master plan, as was just pointed out by the previous speaker. It was developed by the people in 1998, updated in 2003, and again in 2009. And in my opinion, the existing plan is a very good one, Mr. Chairman. But unfortunately, the Planning and Zoning Commission, for decades, that's many commissions, has refused to follow the master plan's sage advice and directions on how best to use land in Ascension Parish, which is the prime reason why we have failed miserably in terms of suffering from a lack of adequate road, drainage, and sewer and other infrastructures. Indeed, the present chairman of the P&Z considers our master plan to be little more than, quote unquote, a playbook, his exact words at a recent meeting. and not law. Thus, why would it be prudent to pay another $450,000 for a revision or updating of our master plan when the prevailing attitude is we don't have to, and we choose not to follow the master plan? What insurance do we have that the new plan, quote unquote, new playbook, which is going to be a very expensive one, will be followed? And will that plan include the same excellent guiding principles found in our 1998 plan that, quote, discourages growth where there is inadequate infrastructure? Everyone please recall that in 2010, this council and the administration then hired Winston & Associates and paid them a whopping $350,000 to update our master plan. An additional $150,000 was also spent with CPEX of Baton Rouge for administrative costs associated with the Winston plan. And look where that got us. After 11 district public meetings, the people solidly rejected the Winston, quote, boilerplate, unquote, master plan revision. A total waste of $500,000 taxpayer dollars. Undaunted, the City Planning and Zoning Commission in 2011, a body, Mr. Chairman, of which I was a member of back then, took the state-mandated responsibility to develop a quote-unquote in-house plan, and we took this mandate seriously. Following elective processes, okay, we appointed interested citizens who are elected from the private or business sector, the public or citizen sector, and the government sectors, including many members of our own planning department, to sit as a body and to update the master plan. Unfortunately, the administration and the council blocked this effort by refusing to fund the Planning and Zoning Commission request for a mere $27,000 to conduct this in-house study revision, albeit such funding by the council is a state-mandated obligation. Then on the heels of that grave error, the Parish Council further exacerbated the situation by firing all planning and zoning commissioners and reducing the body size from 9 to 7 members. So in summary, I believe the problem with the unbridled growth in Ascension Parish is not because of an outdated master plan, but rather that we don't follow the wonderful plan, the public's plan, that we have in place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a commissioner problem, in my opinion, and the prime reason why our sitting commissioners may need consideration for replacement. We don't need another, quote, outsider study to update our master plan. We know what the problems are. We need to either start following the plan we have or charge our P&Z commissioners and the planning department to develop an insider plan. Surely we have the expertise. If not, what good is our planning department, their staff, their leadership, and the planning and zoning commissioners that we have appointed? No one knows more about what was needed in Ascension Parish than we do, and a local effort would be substantially cheaper to conduct. And I thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I have one housekeeping note, Madam Secretary. Councilwoman Casso is back as a part of the council.
I apologize for that.
A wee bit early on the recusal.
I was between my lines here.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions?
Yeah, I would,
Councilman Kluwat.
yes, Jerome, what's your take on this?
Well, I'd like to state as much as that the master plan, and it's read in the master plan that we have right now, the master plan and the land use plan presents recommendations of the Parish Planning Commission for the development of Ascension Parish from 2001 to 2003. That's in the opening paragraph of the master plan. So this thing, and I'll quote you a couple of population growth information. From the year 2000 to the year 2016, 2000 we had 76,627 people in the parish of Ascension. In 2016 we had 121,587 people in the parish. There's a 59% increase in population over that time period. It states without reason that we are a fast growing parish. In 2010 to 2016, we're the 13% increase in population, and the only parish during that time period that was greater than us in population growth was St. Bernard Parish, and that's because everybody was returning there from Hurricane Katrina. So, and then from 2014 to 2016, we had a 4% growth in population. And again, we were the fastest growing parish in the state of Louisiana. So to update the parish master plan, I think is imperative. Additionally, one thing that we need to do is update the master plan to make sure that we're in coordination with the master transportation plan that's being prepared right now. Those things need to jive. Additionally, we just entered a contract to do a master plan for drainage in the parish. That needs to jive as well with the land use plan. So I think this planning effort is really incumbent upon us to update what we have right now, and I think it's imperative. Now, I would like to add, too, that Winston Associates was paid $300,000, but the contract for CPEX was $50,000, and that was to administer it. And it also states that a parish planning commission shall make and adopt a master plan for the physical development of the unincorporated territory of the parish. That means that the planning commission adopts the master plan. The council will be tasked with getting the zoning ordinance in compliance with the plan. So the plan is just that. It's the plan of how the development will occur in the parish. The zoning ordinance is the tool to implement the plan. And it's imperative that we get the two in coordination, all right? So part of the work will be getting the land use plan prepared, but the second part of that is to get the zoning ordinance in compliance with the plan. We have a zoning ordinance that's quite old, and portions of it were from the old police jury days. In fact, there are certain references in the zoning ordinance to police jury matters. So those things need to happen, and there needs to be a true update to this. So that's all I have to say right now. I'm open to questions.
Councilman
Well, I guess I
Kluwer.
want to continue on, is just basically, reference to the $20-something thousand versus $450,000.
Right.
What
Well, the $450,000 was just a number that we used, looked at past cost, and it's a not-to-exceed amount. If we can get that lower, we certainly will, so we're just looking at it as a not-to-exceed amount. Right.
Thank you.
Councilman Lawler.
I know there is some concern about having quote-unquote outsiders come in and look at our parish. The public will get an input, right, if we hire an outside company? Is that how it usually works?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there will be a series of meetings that will hopefully go around the parish. We'll have meetings at different council districts, very likely. Yeah. And there's a tremendous amount of public input into this process.
Well, isn't that special? That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Get public input.
And, there's a lot of new thought that's going into plans and zoning ordinances and everything else, right? And since we first adopted this plan back in 2000, there's a new concept called new urbanism. City of Gonzales has used some of those ideas in their new master plan and their new zoning ordinance. These are certain things that we'd like to look at here. So there's a lot that's been done in the planning world since this plan was the one that we have now in existence was first implemented.
Thank you, Jerome.
Mr. Cagnolati.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Jerome, for your comments. What it boils down to is it's not a study. Let's clarify that. It's a plan update. Yes. We're updating the master plan, which was adopted a long time ago, which still has references to old dates, 98, 2000, 2003. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I don't want to discourage the public from having input. That's why we have the meetings. But certainly and I don't think anyone on this panel would say that they're qualified to do the work that a CPEX or a Winston can do when doing a master plan. It takes expertise that we don't have. That'll be all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, Mr. Fournier. I'd like for you to talk just, if you will, about the coordination between this plan and our floodplain management plan and our transportation plan, and the possibilities there of the, how do these things interconnect, and what is it that you do in the future land use that, is a part of the floodplain management and our transportation corridors, for example?
Sure. When it comes to land use and transportation, I think one of the things that we need to look at from a land use perspective is look at certain areas of the parish that we're going to have density. We know where those are right now. Chairman Satterley's district, a tremendously dense operation. Are we going to put together a four-lane arterial highway that's going to serve those areas, as opposed to, with due respect, Councilmember Kluat's Santa Mata area, which has much less density? So we need to look at the transportation needs based on the type of density in housing and that type of thing that occurs in these particular areas of the parish. So that's one thing. Also, in addition to, I mentioned the zoning ordinance, the other thing that's the implementing tool, or the tool that's being used to implement the land use plan, is the subdivision regulations. And so one thing that we would like to look at in the subdivision regulations, and I know that you're taking up this matter a little later, in terms of how do we build in flood-prone areas. And so that's going to be part of the plan as well. Should we allocate certain areas of the parish to be much less dense because of flooding problems, as opposed to certain areas which are, let's say, out of the X-flood zone, and we allow a different type of land use to occur in those areas? So these are the type of things that we could study and create a plan from, by looking at those two studies that are occurring now. I would say that in all of my experience in planning, and I've been at it for about 30 years now, typically you have a general plan, and under that general plan you have elements under the general plan. One is a land use element, one's a transportation element, there's a housing element, there are different elements under the general plan. So right now we have a somewhat piecemeal general plan, and so that's one thing we would like to do, is consolidate that under one umbrella of, let's say, the general plan. Right?
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Joseph.
Jerome, how long this study would take?
We're assuming that it would probably take about 18 months to complete at the outset. Now that involves a lot of public meetings, and it's going out to the public and getting input from the public, doing a draft once those public meetings have occurred, and looking at the plan itself as one component of that. And then once we have the plan put together, we're going to have to redo the zoning ordinance to get it in compliance with the plan, right? So that there'll very likely be some legal work involved with getting that accomplished.
So we're talking about at least
I'm talking about,
20 to 24 months to 36 months before we really, 30 months before we even get something in our hand.
Well, you doubled the amount that I said about 18 months. So.
You said 18 months, so I'm figuring, government. I'm just being honest. Okay?
Well, I'm looking at 18 at the outset. I'm hoping it can occur much quicker than that. Right?
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
I try to be the optimist. So.
All right.
Further discussion, further questions? Opposition?
I have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Fournier, what's in the word? I don't think you can have a plan or a playbook, quite frankly, with all respect to my esteemed colleague, without a study. Certainly we can be paying these people to study in order to come up with a plan. That said, regardless of the time frame, et cetera, my concern remains, and so I'm asking you tonight, in front of God and country, to testify your opinion on this. Again, it's not my words. The current plan is little more than a playbook, quote unquote, by our planning commission. What guarantee can you offer to people, or anybody here from planning and zoning, that not viewed as law? What's going to make us follow it? We haven't been following it. It's why we're in trouble. But we're going to spend another $450 for a playbook. I'll promise you this: when Nick Saban, formerly Les Miles, now Mr. Ogeron, has a playbook and so forth, at least follow it until the score is 50-0.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems that we're having right now is that, number one, the plan that we have is old. Number two, that there's some discrepancies, so to speak, between the plan and the zoning ordinance. and those need to be corrected. And thirdly, we can look at the subdivision regulations in light of all of the things that are accomplished there. So there's some disparity between those three objects that we deal with. Those are the tools that we deal with right now. So that's why I'm saying that I think that we have an outdated plan. It needs to be looked at. And while we're doing the other plans for transportation and for floodplain management, this is the time to look at land use.
Okay.
So I think it's a timing issue.
Let me try one more time. So our master plan is old.
Yes.
Okay, and that's one of your three reasons. Is it too old, sir, not to discourage development in areas lacking in infrastructure, which the plan clearly states as one of the guiding principles? It is Appendix 3 of our Land Development Code. I would like to believe that it's law. We could argue till the cows come home whether it is or not. So again, I reiterate, some of these concepts never become ancient, and they are the etiology, the underlying reason why we're in the trouble that we're in. I mean, is it too old not to discourage development in areas lacking infrastructure? Can you tell me for sure that whoever we pay, whoever's anointed for the $450,000 is going to put similar guiding principles in that may or may not be followed, that we shouldn't develop it where we shouldn't develop because the roads are inadequate, the drainage is inadequate, there's no sewer, whatever?
Okay. Are you asking me to give guarantees? I can't do that right now.
Okay. No, I'm just asking you to go on record. So your answer is you can't guarantee it.
I can't make guarantees right now.
Okay.
All right, so.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, further, Mr. Lawler.
Just briefly, I want to get a better understanding. This, once we get the master plan done, any recommendations and zoning changes, which we will really need to make this effective, will come before the council. We'll have to improve those.
Absolutely. The zoning ordinance is just that. It's an ordinance. And any ordinance change has to go before the full council for approval.
How convenient.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, questions? We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Have opposition, Madam Secretary.
Councilman Turner.
Just for clarification, so I vote yes, I'm voting for the plan, right? Yes.
Councilman Satterley.
No.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Kluwat.
Yes.
Councilman Joseph.
Wow.
Yes.
Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Dawson.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Fournier. Item number 15.
Do I have to go through it again?
You have to make it record.
I'm going to excuse myself for the reasons mentioned before.
She's recusing herself. Okay. Item number 15 is zoning review, IDPZ 14-13.17, Tract A-1-2 and A-3 of the subdivision of Tract A into Tract A-1, A-2 and A-3 for Industrial Design, Inc., Spud. Major use change located on the west side of LA Highway 73, approximately 1,200 feet north of LA Highway 621. To request a major use change, we have speakers here, and first we'll have Peyton Grant.
Peyton Grant with the Baton Rouge General. Thank you. Thank you for your time. As you know, we recently announced plans to open a neighborhood hospital on LA 73 and I-10. A neighborhood hospital is a type of micro-hospital that is much smaller in scale than a traditional hospital and is designed to fold into the communities without disruption. But despite the small size, it provides powerful reassurance for your residents that they will be able to get quality care quickly in an emergency. We are here to make a technical change to the zoning of the property we purchased last fall for the facility. In September, we had a SPUD approved for medical use. After reviewing our plans and projections for the facility, we thought it was important to reduce transfers as much as possible and added 10 inpatient beds to the space. Those beds require us to be licensed as a hospital, which is why we are here. We are requesting your approval on the major use change to hospital and general medical office space. Those beds required, the good news is that the zoning change actually approves our original traffic predictions. With a smaller area dedicated to medical office space, our model shows that less traffic during peak hours than currently approved plans for the medical office building we had. We know traffic is a major consideration. Ultimately, it's one of the reasons we thought the neighborhood hospital concept was the right choice for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so
Motion.
a motion by Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Cagnolati. Discussion. Mr. Lawler.
I just want to be clear, by voting for this change in the SPUD, we're going to be reducing traffic, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and opposing this is going to be an increase in traffic?
It's going to be a medical office building, which actually is an increase in of traffic, yes, sir.
Exactly, and by voting for this, we're going to get a micro hospital closer to my house.
Yes, sir.
3 boys, I'm going to need it.
Thank you.
I also failed to mention that this was approved by the zoning commission.
Right.
And recommended for, to be put on this agenda. Okay, discussion. Mr. Satterley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Grant. Appreciate the phone call we had not too long ago and so forth. And while that was several hours long, I'll try to be briefer this time. We've just talked about what the PNZ did in this latest decision. What about when it was just 60,000 square feet of office space and didn't include the 10 beds in the emergency room? Did they approve or deny the development then?
As I understand it, sir, they disapproved it.
So we have the same commission disapproving one facility, and then we got the same, that commission approving it, and somehow we're led to believe, from Mr. Lawler's question, that it'll actually decrease the traffic. I would submit to you, as I did in the phone, sir, poppycock. Anything coming on Highway 73, and that's why you probably saw at Crawfish Aquatics, if you didn't, 555 people signed a petition against that development, which is a stone throw from the one that you're proposing. 15, 20, whatever it was, people, almost not quite as much as we had here tonight for the Gonzales Soccer Club, but probably over 100 people in the room. And signs that said things like, "Pray for me, I drive 73. It is my distinct opinion, and albeit this is not in my district, it's in Ms. Casso's, who is, I think, recused herself. I'm sure she's listening behind the scenes, but people don't realize it. If you really look at D4 and D7, I go as far as Miller Road. In fact, one side of the street, depending on if you're odd or even numbered home, is my side. The other side is the intersection of 73. This is Ms. Casso, and then your development is just a stone's throw down from there, and a stone's throw from Crawfish Aquatics. And as I indicate in the phone, right across the street from the House of Dutchtown, a new 200 site development, right next to a fire station. It's within, there's a new school going to be built right there, yet to be built, in addition to the 3 schools that are all within about a half a mile, and I'm talking about St. John's, Dutchtown High, Dutchtown Middle, et cetera. It is a traffic nightmare, and despite the widening by the state to a 3-lane road, in addition to Pray For Me, I Drive 73, I know the locals have dubbed it, those 555 dear souls who didn't want the Crawfish Aquatics thing, the suicide lane. So I'm not unhappy to report. It's just that, and it's not my district, and I have never gone against another councilman what they want. But in this case, since it's like literally feet away from being in my district, I can tell you this, the people in D4 that live on or off Highway 73 in Longwood, Seven Oaks, Southwood Village, Renaissance, you name it, 6 or 7 other subdivisions that I've mentioned, they don't want this. I am not against children. Firemen said that earlier. I'm not against soccer. I'm not against this hospital. Man, I'd be just going crazy if you were trying to do it elsewhere. In fact, I just attended a cooperative agreement, a contract agreement pre-app meeting with Mr. Fournier and our staff and developers of a 10-bed hospital in Bouillon Crossing on Highway 61. And as proof that I'm not against such things, I congratulated the developer and said, hey, Yay for you guys, because you're going in an area where I guarantee you I won't get a single call. And to wit, sir, I didn't. But they're lighting me up again, even though it's not, as I said, exactly in my district, for the inappropriate location of this development. I just cannot buy into it's going to reduce traffic, okay? And that's why I made the comments I just made, by the way, on the master plan, okay? I do believe our traffic impact studies aren't worth the paper they're written in. I think our former engineer, Mr. Bob Horner, probably got fired for saying it, did that. So we need a plan. I just objected not to the plan, by the way, but to us spending a whole lot of money to do it, because once again, that plan says when there's inadequate infrastructure, we discourage growth. But here we're saying tonight, hey, let's go ahead and throw another development with Crawfish Aquatics in the same area, with the school yet coming, with the Howells of Dutchtown, all these other schools up and down there, and the people are doing what I told several people before this meeting. They're voting with their feet. They're leaving every day in that area as we continue to congest that highway more and more and more, making it not just unpalatable, but quite frankly, sir, unsafe. So I'm not going to be able to support development tonight for all of those reasons that I just gave, but I do thank you for calling me.
Councilman Lawler.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue your case for you, but the office building is already approved, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it's approved.
So y'all can start building that tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
So what we're saying is by changing the lower floors of the office building to a micro hospital, there'll be less office space.
Yes, sir, less office space.
And that's why there's an in traffic.
Correct.
So this is going to be built. You're not implying that by building a hospital, you're going to reduce traffic overall on Highway 73?
No, sir, just from the projections that we had earlier.
That would be Balderdash?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Further comments? We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Madam Secretary, we have opposition.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilman Satterlee.
No.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Kluot.
Yes.
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 Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso.
She's recused herself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Recused.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Dawson.
Yes. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, does Mr. Lawler get to vote 3 times?
Robert's Rules of Order.
Item number 16, zoning review ID PZ 1397.17-Z, Track 2 for PAX Inc., located on the north side of Babin Road, approximately 1,500 feet west of Airline Highway, to amend Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to light industrial. Zoning Commission recommends approval, and we do have a speaker on this, and we have Mr. Tim Terrio. Still here? Yes.
Good evening. Does the overhead work?
It should. No, we don't. The screen,
no.
we're in a transition time here.
Okay.
We could probably get it on TV. We'll get it on the
Maybe come on the screen, split it up. I'm not sure.
Can
Yeah,
see
there you
that?
go. We can see it, and it's on TV. It's just not transmitted up to the, where the monitors were.
All right. Councilman, I come up before you tonight. It's my opinion that the rezoning of this existing property, CMI, as well as the recently purchased adjacent piece from PAX, should not be rezoned from medium-intensity residential to light industrial. This is a huge change, and it'll allow CMI or any further in the future, people who would purchase the property to operate as they please. And with that zoning, they can do anything they want shy of producing chemicals at that area. I live on Babin Road, right here in the parish. I've been working in the chemical industry for 37 and a half years. So I'm familiar with the chemical plants, how they operate. Employees are trained on hazard recognition, on responsible care, safe handling practices of hazardous materials, corrosive materials, and toxic materials from the cradle to the grave. This also includes monitoring that we do at the facility I'd like to share a few photos. You see one of them here that I put on here. This last Wednesday, it went to the planning and zoning. 2 days later, I passed by on Friday, and you could see the lack of containment where the sandblast and sand is leaving out from this area right here. This is what the residents are seeing, all the sand. They made a comment that at the last meeting that they would like to go ahead and bring another 100 people in here to get the zoning changed, another 100 employees. What the residents are concerned with, if that was to happen, here's a photo that you can see right here. There's employees working, and some of the stuff that came out of the plants, they're washing it, and as part of hazard recognition, and you guys can clearly see there's a lack of containment. It's an open building, an open area where this stuff is going on at. I've got another photo right here, and in this photo you can see where the guy is out spraying industrial coatings on his stuff that's chemical resistant. The guy's got a protective suit on. He's got something so that he's not breathing the chemicals, and he's spraying in the open, and there's no signs of containment around the area. And then you can see in this photo where he's
Okay,
adjusting.
Mr. Terrio, you had 3 minutes. So if you'll just close up for us real quickly.
Okay, so anyway, with the photos I have, what I'm asking you tonight is, part of y'all duty is to look at the public safety, and if we add another 100 people to the site and the stuff that we're seeing in this area, the residents are concerned of what's gonna happen. We smell burning rubber, we see open flames in the area, there's dust with little or no containment to groundwater, to the air. So our concern is that if y'all change this zoning to this extreme, and they also purchase several acres of land adjacent to this, it's gonna
Okay.
get worse. So I'm asking y'all to deny this change.
Thank you, Mr.
Request.
Terrio.
Thank you.
There's someone to represent the applicant tonight? Here we go. So, just calling you up if you want to make some comments and answer questions. It's up to you.
Well, I can. I'm the owner of the property, and, you know, we've been a good footprint for this area. We've never had a complaint for a neighbor, and it's been there for 40 years. And I've been there for 25, and I can't think of a single time that any neighbor has complained about anything. So, you know, so we're trying to apply for, and the people that we're bringing in are not industrial people. We're bringing in office people. We're trying to build an office to bring people from about 3 locations in East Baton Rouge Parish to this parish. So it's not industrial people that we're bringing in, and as a matter of fact as well, about 70% of our work is actually in the field, in the plants. But we have to maintain this property for some shop work that's being done, and that we have no manufacture of any chemical. We do sandblast in the property, but we sandblast way away from any neighborhood. All the adjacent property to this property is already in, it's zoned residential, but all the adjacent property has been industrial for 40 years. And, you know, we are a good footprint. We recognize, we were very respectful of our neighbors and not being in a bad footprint to the area. And, but we've been operating that way for 40 years. And 25, I've been there, and I've never had a single complaint for a neighbor. And if I did, I would certainly rectify it. And, you know, so our goal is to be a good footprint. The people that we're bringing in are office people, you know. And we may, from time to time, we're about to build, we want to build an office building. So that's what's going on, and that's the reason that we noticed that we had no idea that we were zoned residential. And
Okay, Mr. Fournier, perhaps you could give us some clarification. So what I understand, non-conforming use, is that what we have here?
That's correct, Councilmember. The property right now is zoned residential, and it's a non-conforming use. He's right, they've been in that operation for years. What his intent was to increase, he's got a small office building on the site that's being used as office space, and it looks, when we visited the site, it appeared to be an older home that was put there or an older building that was put there, and he wanted to increase the size of the building to create an office building to house his employees, his office employees, like he described. Under the current zoning ordinance, because it's a non-conforming use, he's limited on the increase in the size of the building based on the value of the building. So he can't increase the size of the building because the value that's existing now has very little value because it's such an old structure. So any option that he has to put an office building on the site would have to have a rezone, and that's why he's applying for what he's doing right now.
Okay, questions? Mr. Lambert, Todd Lambert.
Yeah, since it's in my district, Mr. Jerome, you know, it's going from medium residential all the way to light, you know, industrial. That's a big jump. If it's just going to be an office building, they're non-conforming with their shop, correct?
That's correct.
Couldn't they go mixed use too and be business, just a shop, you know, we're a little concerned, and I had a lot of phone calls. I know we just had one talk in the audience, but had quite a few that couldn't make it here tonight that called me this week.
Yeah.
And I watched the meeting last week on the, you know, the planning commission meeting. I know the commission went 3-2 on it. It wasn't a unanimous vote to, but right behind it, they had some land they wanted to go light industrial also. And that would open the doors up. Now, they want just office, but maybe once it's sold down the road, it could sell. And it's light industrial, you got a railroad right there. They might put a spur in there that could cause some, you know, maybe some sandblasting and painting of rail cars, you know, repairs. Who knows? It could be many things on the light industrial. That's a big move, you know, from medium residential to light industrial, and that's one of my concerns. Mixed use too wouldn't fit just for that office building?
Well, mixed use very likely might, but the problem with mixed use, if it ever reverted to something else, they could put in large apartment buildings there with mixed use, and that's what we're...
Not the medium residential, that's correct. It's unfortunately that it's non-conforming use, you know, and it's been there a long time, no doubt.
Right.
And it is what it is as far as, you know, the way they operate, and you know, I'm just gonna have to oppose, you know, planning zoning's recommendation to recommend, so.
So you're making a motion to, okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert.
I'll second the motion. I have discussion.
We'll have a second by Mr. Lawler. I recognize Mr. Johnson first.
Mr. Jerome, question for you. I'm looking at the pictures here. Is there a way that they could segregate the property to where the fab area or the work area could not be, or, you know, keep it as a non-conforming use and just rezone the area where they want to put the building at? And that way it would be a little bit more difficult to, in the future, to try to be kind of accommodate what Mr. Lambert's talking about.
Well, they'd have to go through a parcelization of the property. We'd have to create another lot.
Would that be something y'all might consider?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean,
They would still have to get the rezone in order to put the office building there.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't want to put anything out there. I'm just trying to, I think it would offer a little bit more protection to the residents there to understand that, you know, the work that y'all are doing, area couldn't change, and the usage wouldn't be allowed to do something like what you were talking about and grow exponentially, but they could still maybe square off that parcel where they want to put the office space and rezone that alone and do their office building like they would like. I don't know if that's acceptable, but it's a potential option. I want to throw that out there.
Yeah, we could sit down and talk with him about that possibility. He'd have to go back to the zoning commission, and I'd have to look at some other parameters in terms of lot size, right? And
So if it's denied tonight, that puts them 6 months before they can reapply for anything, is that correct?
They can apply with a different project.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one more thing in that same area across the street. I think maybe, I don't know how many years ago, they had a local parish guy that tried to rezone that and it got denied. So we also want to stay consistent because it's a non-conforming use also across the street from it, correct?
Right, yes.
And he got denied rezoning also, so.
Councilman Lawler.
I'm just looking for solutions here. And I don't know too much about SPUDs, but is it possible to parcel it off and do a SPUD to allow for the building of the office building? Because I'd love to get more employees into the parish somehow.
Yeah.
No, we don't allow industrial uses in SPUDs, right, so.
But even if we parceled it off, two separate parcels.
If there were a separate parcel
That's what I'm
and he
saying.
applied for a SPUD, then we possibly could work with that.
If that could be possible, that way we prevent any additional, big apartment building come in,
But
but they could parcel it off and.
Yeah, but we'd have to consider the size of the parcel, because with a large office complex, we're gonna need parking, we're gonna need other parameters, so we can't create too small of a parcel in order to meet the development requirements of the building.
But I mean, that could be, I'm just looking at options here, and maybe we talk to them longer, or they can talk amongst themselves, or.
Yeah. Well, the
Council- I'm
gentleman's
sorry.
welcome to come to staff, and we'll be happy to talk to him about the possibilities.
Councilman Satterley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jerome. I rise once again in opposition of this rezoning. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, we just voted, Mr. Chairman, for a $500,000 expenditure to the master plan, at least everybody but myself. I have to ask, what good is it, a new master plan that Mr. Fournier said will result in a change in our zoning ordinances when, as it is, all we seem to do right now is rezone and rezone and rezone, and in this case, from medium residential to, is it light industrial? Certainly a more intense use, as Mr. Lambert pointed out, that would be Todd, a big move, consistently by our PNZ over the outcry of our citizenry. And in this case, talking about health, safety, and welfare, there's of course the possibility, as Mr. Theriault pointed out, of air pollution. Number two, why don't we just rezone everything in Ascension Parish? In fact, I'm going to go home and talk to my bride and ask her, would she like to put in a request next week to the Planning and Zoning Commission to rezone our property so that I too can sell it for 3 times what it's worth. And that's all I have to say. Oh, one more thing. We always seem to be worried up here in this dais about what might be if we don't do this and give in to someone's wish to rezone their property instead of what is. I think it's high time we better start thinking about what is before it's too late. And I thank everyone for listening.
Councilman Kluat.
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize that this business has been here for a long time, okay? And what they're requesting, they did have 2 requests. One request was for this piece of land, one was the next agenda items for the other piece of land. We, in the Planning and Zoning Commission, recommended denial on that second part. But he's looking to build an office building here, right? And bring some residents back to the parish, bring a business back into the parish. So what do we see the future of this? I'll yield to Mr. Lambert. It's his district, but I mean, where do we see this going? That piece of land has been used for the same use for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion, questions? We have a motion to deny, a motion and a second to deny. Any opposition?
I would just like to continue. I would like to know from Jerome, is there anything that these people can do other than turn around and go back?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion.
Question of the owner, if he doesn't mind, would y'all be open to sending this back to planning and zoning to where it wouldn't penalize y'all for 6 months or whatever to think
I'm
about
open
what we
to
talked
anything. I have
about?
my whole life invested over there.
Right, I mean,
the
office building, I think the office building wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing that the residents wouldn't object to, but they kind of want some security that you're not going to expand your industrial operation that may start imposing more upon their property and stuff. And I mean, if y'all are willing to go back and talk to Mr. Jerome, see if there's some other options about bringing that in there.
I mean, we'll have to reevaluate. I mean, I don't know what I'll do if it's denied. I mean, I'm going to have to reconsider everything because I mean, this is hardship and puts all my employees at jeopardy. I mean, we've been there. These are not low-paying jobs either. That everybody needs to know. These are fellas that are making $100,000 a year. Right. My payroll runs about $3 million a year. I mean, that's a lot for our parish. So to deny this puts everything in jeopardy. So, I mean, everybody needs to understand that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I have my whole life invested over there, and I bought the company in 1994 You know, I've been making payroll every week since 1994. And the buildings, 90% of the buildings are there, and 90% of the operation has been there since 72.
Right.
You know, so this is a big deal, not just for me, but also for my employees. You know, my average employee has been there 25 years. You know, this is their life, and this puts everything at jeopardy. And the only, I had no idea it was even zoned residential. You know,
Right.
I think it's been operating since 72. I think it got rezoned, and listen to everybody, maybe in the 98 deal or whatever. So, you know, what happened is that we have a good bit of people on Rome Drive in Baton Rouge, and then we also have our administrative offices on Highland Road. And so what we want to do is, it's not really functional for all this administration to be at about 3 different locations. So we said we need to build an office building. You know, it's a $1 million office building. We're bringing the administrative people over to Babin Road, and, you know, I mean, we want to expand just like anybody else. I mean, this is a large investment for us, and it's been for me for a long time. So this, you know, when I came before the zoning committee last time, I was scared to death. I mean, I have my whole life invested over there, you know, and since 1994. We're very respectful of the residents. You know, if I think one time, I think years ago, Mr. Marchand called and said, hey, you know, and you were like, hey, we're going to fix whatever you have problem, you know, because, you know, we don't deal with any chemicals, but we, you know, we do apply rubber, just like the resident said. That's what we do. But the rubber's not a chemical. You know, it's applied very similar to like wallpaper's applied, you know, and now, we do bring equipment sometimes in from the plants, but as I said, 70% of our work is in the plants. So this $2 to $3 million payroll that I'm talking about, most of it is actually in the field, in the plant itself. And, you know, but the plants are not going to do business with me if I don't have a shop to operate out of. I can't operate out of an office and do work in the plant. So to me, this is a big deal to me and my employees. I mean, you know, it puts us all at jeopardy. And I know the residents are concerned, and I am very respectful of the residents. And I think where we're at now is you have an owner of the property that's respective of all the residents in the area. And if we move forward and put me out of business, what's going to be there after me? You know, I mean,
I think that's part of where we're going with this, and is to still give you an option to move your building in there. But kind of give this some guarantees as well as far as the operation is concerned. And if I would like to make a substitute motion to move this back to planning and zoning and recommend that the gentleman get with Mr. Jerome and see if there's a potential for moving it out as opposed to going forward with the denial. And that just
6 months.
Have a motion by
Hold
Councilman.
on, Councilman. He has to concede to that because the code provides that when there's a recommendation, you've got to act on it in the first meeting. So he has to agree to do that, but not just by motion.
That's kind of why I was bringing you up.
So is that motion needed?
If he has to go back to that, he would have to request.
I mean, my administration is intact. You know, I mean, I don't know what I'll do. I may just leave it like it is. I mean, I'm doing this for my employees probably more than me. I mean, I can't say what I'm going to do. You know, it's hard for me to say what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to get right with this.
Well, it's up to you if you want us to do that or not, but it gives you an option that you don't have right now.
Right.
It's kind of I don't know where it's going to go in a vote, but I mean, you're taking a little bit more of a chance if we try to vote for it. So if you would like that option to go back and have that discussion with Mr. Jerome, see if there's something else. If nothing else, within a month, you could get it back on the agenda and see what happens at that point. But if it goes through and it fails, then you're at least 6 months out from doing anything, if I understand it correctly.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
I think we have a proposed motion by Councilman Johnson, and I think it's up to the applicant to say whether he's amenable to that.
I mean, I'm certainly willing to talk to him about, you know, some type of, I mean, I got to do what I got to do. I'm kind of like he was earlier. You know, it's hard for me to promise what I'm going to do, you know. Right now, I'm trying to get right with the zoning, and, you know, this is new to me. I'm not in the real estate business, you know, so I've never put anything for zoning in my entire life. So this is, I mean, that's the first zoning meeting I've ever come to in my life, you know, and I was scared to death. I have my whole life invested on Babin Road, just like the residents, and, so I know that they have their position and I have my position is, and certainly I'm willing to talk, but I can't promise.
Okay, so let's just make sure that I'm understanding that correctly, is that you're okay with going back with the motion to refer this back, give you an opportunity to meet with the staff and see if there's another solution of less severe zoning change. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Johnson to refer this back, and we have a second by Councilwoman Castle. Now, do we have any discussion? Mr. Kluart?
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize, and Jerome can re-clarify that the only reason he came forward, he came to try to build a building, okay? And then finding out what zoning and restrictions that he has, that he needed a rezone to build a building. Right, Jerome?
They needed a rezone to build the building, correct, because of the non-conforming use that exists in there. And the reason we went with light industrial use is because of the ancillary operations
So
that
the
he has on the
recommendation to
site.
go with light industrial came from the zoning department.
Well, we talked with him about it, and we said
And
this
that
would
was
very
an option
likely
for
be
him.
your best, this would be your best prospect in terms of putting the building on, given the fact that he does do operations on the site that would be allowable under light industrial.
So you basically looked at move a place that is non-conforming into conforming.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I want to clarify that.
Okay, further discussion, further questions. Councilman Johnson?
Jerome, real quick, so, I mean, if he sits down and talks with you guys and nothing can come up in about 2 weeks, I mean, technically, he can try to get it back on the agenda for the first meeting next month, what we have tonight, correct? I mean, Aaron, I mean.
I'd defer.
You can defer to, if he agrees to concede to a
He doesn't have
deferral
to, I
to
mean,
the
if
next
nothing
meeting.
changes, he doesn't have to go back to planning and zoning. It's simply basically try to work something out to accommodate what we've talked about tonight, and then if that doesn't work within a couple of weeks, not to hold you up from a financial standpoint of view, I mean, we don't want to try to drag that out for you.
Nope.
We're just trying to give you a different option that may work for you.
Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, but Jerome, with your expertise and maybe O'Neill, do y'all see any other way out of building, just a building without
Well, we
affecting?
went through a lot of options, and especially considering what he uses the other property for, in terms of sandblasting and things of that sort. It'd be difficult to put him in another category, So we felt that the office building plus the ancillary uses of the property, this would be the best category for him. So
It
we
would kind of
talked
be
a
spot
number of
zone-
different
yeah,
options.
It would be kind of spot zoning, throwing something right in the middle of non-conforming use anyway, too.
Right.
That's what it would look like. So I just don't know if there's another alternative.
Well, let me ask this, Jerome, when you looked at the options, did you look at the possibility of him separating those parcels out?
Well, we didn't. That wasn't one of the options that we
Okay.
looked at. And I think one of the reasons for that is, like I mentioned before, is that if we put an office building a certain size on the property, we need a parcel large enough to accommodate everything else that office building will require, especially parking. So
Wouldn't he be required to do that anyway, Jerome?
he would, yeah. But the parcel right now is a certain size
Right.
that can accommodate that. But if we split the parcel up, then it may not be.
I understand,
I would like to say
This
that was
is a
one
shame.
thing that I didn't say that Jerome brought up that was good, is that parking it's a lot of parking, so it's about, 4 acres that is under consideration, and.
Sir, could you come up to the microphone?
One thing that I failed to mention earlier that I'm glad is parking, so parceling it off, I think I need a lot for parking, So once you build the building, and I'm gonna leave, there's an existing structure there, and, I've made an agreement with the guys, Danny and David, to let them use that building for a while, so I'm gonna put the office building next to that one, and then it's gonna be a good bit of parking that's gonna go around it, so it kinda does encompass most of the property anyway, and, originally, we were gonna build the office building on the other property, which is along the railroad tracks, which, and, we just thought it would look better for the area to put it on the the new property. And, because I really didn't have to buy that property, you know, but, at one time, it was all one piece of property, and it got parceled. And, so really, if you take the existing structure, you add the building, and then you encompass parking around it, it is gonna take up a lot of that parcel. And, so, you know, I don't know what else to say about that, except that, you know, I think it's gonna be a good for the area. I mean, it's good for the parish, because I would say about, you know, 80% of my employees are driving right now from Ascension Parish to East Baton Rouge Parish. So they're excited. I mean, they're very excited about it because, you know, most of them live right down the road. So, you know, we're doing it for a whole multitude of reasons. One is for them, you know, and because they don't want to drive to Highland Road and Rome Drive anymore. You know, it's, you know, and we want everybody in the same location, you know. So that's our reasoning behind it.
Further discussion, further questions? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to refer this, Councilman Joseph, sorry.
I just have one question for you, sir. Yes, it's real simple. Have you had a meeting or anything with your neighbors to see if you can, you know, solve this problem in-house? What is your concern?
No, honestly, I didn't know there was a problem. Like I said, I've been there for 25 years myself. The property's been there for 40 years. Maybe 15 years ago, Mr. Marchand called. I mean, that was probably the only time I had no idea that there would even be an issue. You know, it was, you know.
That's one thing I also would recommend them so they can understand what you do, okay? And then you may work out this problem a little bit better. But, I mean, right now, they're only looking at
the bad part of it.
Right. So,
right.
That's all.
Okay, Councilman Cluett.
I would just like to be clear that what's his alternatives? I mean, going back, I mean, what, the motion, what exactly is the motion?
The motion is to refer this back to planning and zoning and for them to investigate other alternatives that perhaps would have a lower zoning.
Planning and zoning department?
Yes.
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 Department.
Department.
Right. Department.
And then bring this back to the council. Okay, now, further discussion, any further questions? So we have a motion, as stated, to send this back to Planning and Zoning Department. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 17, zoning review ID PZ 1398.17-Z, Track 1 for JPT Real Estate Holdings, LLC, located on the north side of Babin Road, approximately 1,100 feet west of Airline Highway, to request to amend Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to light industrial. Zoning Commission recommends denial. We have one speaker on this, and again, it's Mr. Terrio.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to put a photograph up here for you to look at. And if you'll see, this is the parcel of land right here that he owns, and it meanders around the buildings. Where Pax owns this building, they own this huge building where they did their cryogenics. That's located here. And this building right here, I'm assuming he came to planning and zoning. This is the brand new, pretty much brand new building they put up. So he should be aware of what's going on in the area. And if you look at this green area around the buildings here that Pax owns, this is the newly acquired piece of property that he bought right here. Here's the office building right here in the corner, the old house that he's talking about, that's sizable. And you'll see the piece that he bought that Pax had. This building right here is probably 4 times and worthy of a 2-story. And then this is probably 6 times the size building. That's what the office is, and there's plenty of parking. What the residents' concern is that when we drive by, and this photo is actually courtesy of one of their employees who took this photograph where you can see the line run out, and out in the open with no signs of containment, they're actually burning a vessel to get the rubber out of it. And then here's another one, even more sizable vessel. So this is what we're smelling, this is what we're seeing. That's the residents. And 2 days ago, I spoke to Mr. Marchand. He told me he'd sign a letter or an affidavit that one day the rubber smell was so bad at his place, and he looked out and the flames were so big, he called the fire department and told them to send a great big fire truck because there's a huge fire over there. I don't know what's going on. Some of the other residents have experienced sandblasting sand on their houses, their vehicles. Industrial coatings don't come off very easily off your vehicle when it gets on there. In the past, when they've cured out some of the rubber liners, they got a machine that ran around the clock. For 3 days, we could hear this humming and this noise from this blower running nonstop while we were trying to sleep. So our concern is that if he takes the other piece of property that he said he's purchased right here and all these other buildings, and he's already expanded greater than 50% from non-conforming, we're scared about what's going to go in there. If it's just an office building, that's one thing, but we're afraid that all of the impact and the blasting and the noise will continue and grow with bringing in 100 people. I don't know if it's office people or what all it is, but today this is what it is. You change this zoning on this extra piece of property to light industrial, and it's zoned forever. They never have to come back before you and ask for another change. They can do anything they want here. So we're asking y'all to protect the safety and well-being of the publics and the residents that live around this area. Thank you for your time.
Okay, again,
I'll make that motion to recommend planning and zoning's recommendation to deny.
so we have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny the rezoning.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Councilman Satterley. Discussion, Mr. Satterley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Terrio. Tim, that picture you showed the council moments ago with the black smoke bellowing out of the flames, what was the material you said being burned there? It's a photo. Could you come back up to the microphone, sir?
I didn't actually take the photo.
Okay.
This was a photo taken by one of their employees and posted on a site, is where this copy was made. One of the residents of the parish, when they saw the issue that was coming up, they looked at that and the other vessel right here where they ran the line, and they have it, and they're burning it out.
Okay, and what, my question is, what is the material being burned there?
My assumption is a rubber liner that was put in there, because we can smell the odor of rubber coming out.
Okay, let's start with this.
All right.
On Strategic Planning Committee, both myself and Mr. Lawler earlier tried to get a parish burn ordinance for which we have none. This property is located inside the parish of Ascension, not inside of the city limit, right?
Correct.
So we were told that we don't need that. City of Gonzales has got one. In fact, the state's got one. And we're trying to model it off of with some small changes from both that city and state ordinances. But not picking on you, Mr. Chairman, but you were one of the guys against this. And the argument you rendered, sir, and others was that we don't need a law because we got state law. So if that's rubber, the state law says that's a violation. How come Sheriff Wiley is not out there
What's the DQ?
policing this, or the DEQ, or whoever's going to be the watchdog agency to prevent, because it sounds like there's a violation before we even talk about anything further. I mean, if it's rubber, it says in there, no rubber, no petroleum products. Familiar with that law, because I tried to.
Maybe you can ask that question to the owner, and he can dispute the fact that
I can,
being burned.
and I will, and thank you for that advice. I was just want to be sure of what your opinion of what it was is burning. Maybe he's going to tell me it's something else.
Well,
Sir, are you burning rubber?
I mean, I'll answer, the question is, it is a violation to burn rubber. It is. And if they're burning rubber, then they should not be burning rubber. Now, what you see at some time in the past he's heating up a tank on the outside, but he's not burning rubber.
Could you put that back on the overhead side?
But it is I can answer that right now. It is a violation to burn rubber, and we do not burn rubber.
Well, my point is we could prevent this just by calling an appropriate enforcement agency. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is, I can answer that for you. It is a violation to burn rubber. You can't burn anything that's been processed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, any further discussion? Mr. Lawler.
I have a question, it may be foolish, but this parcel seems to adjoin the other one.
Yes, sir.
Should this parcel also be sent back to Planning and Zoning Commission for reconsideration? Because it seems like this was one parcel. Well, I'm kind of asking Jerome also, I mean, would that be a wise thing to do, to send it back to allow maybe consideration of both parcels together? If there's some way that it can be worked. Because I think an office building would be great here. To bring more employees here would be great. And I'd like to see that work. I'd like to see a way to make it work.
Excuse me, sir. Did you understand him to say that most of his employees actually live nearby in the area? They live and spend their money in the parish already? They're just driving to Baton Rouge to another office.
I'd like to ask Jerome, though, because
okay.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of his employees live in the area, but I think they drive to Baton Rouge right now. I'd rather them staying in the area, eating lunch here, going to the restaurants, shopping at, Honda place in the afternoon, buy a new car or something. Jerome, is that something that you would recommend, that we send both parcels back? Maybe they could work together to get this done?
Well, we can certainly take a look at both parcels and look at them in unison. One of the reasons that he's looking at the rezone on this property in compliance with the other is just to consolidate the use between both parcels. So now there's not an expansion or anything else that's contemplated, as I know of, on this parcel right here. It is a non-conforming use, but there's no expansion of the uses within that particular parcel that's under consideration right now. So, I mean, we can look at it, but, it's...
Question on it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep a business in Ascension.
Yeah. No, I...
And, got good employees, $1,000 a year. I'd like to see them stay here.
Yeah.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
But I think the reason we sent the first one back was to see if we can design a office building.
Correct.
Not, this is a separate piece of property.
Issue.
So, I don't think, it's the same scenario as the first one. We are sending it back to see if he can work in this office building.
Well, I think what I'm hearing,
Same
business. It's a separate piece of property.
Yeah, but my thought is, can you combine the pieces of property and then look at parceling it out?
He owns them, he can segregate them out any way he wants.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he can.
And that may be a solution to this.
As long as he can get through.
To be able to put the office building on another part of the property, maybe not on that other piece, but somehow work it that, I'm just looking for solutions here.
I mean, we can look at both parcels in a somewhat holistic view, if you'd like to, if the council would like to look at that.
is that a motion, Councilman?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to
Well,
refer this,
He has to agree to that also.
I was about to say.
well, I
And
have to see if that's what he wants to, okay?
And I'd like to ask if you would agree to that. You don't have to. No
Agree
problem.
to re-looking at the,
To look at both pieces of property at the
Absolutely.
same time and see if there's a way that this can
you know,
be
and
worked
and
out.
currently I have no plans of expansion in the property under consideration now. I simply noticed that and I wanted to become conforming. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to, I want to become conforming on both of them, not even trying to exponentially expand, just simply to become conforming, so I'm willing to definitely work with these guys. I worked with, before, when we looked at coming to do this.
Thank you. And so we have an agreement there. You're making a motion to refer that back to planning and zoning, is that correct?
To the planning department.
Planning department. Is that a second, Mr. Cluett?
No.
No.
Yes. I'll be happy to.
Councilwoman Casso, seconds. Okay, so is there further discussion? A motion and a second to refer this also back to planning department.
Object.
Have an objection? Okay, we have an objection. Ms. McKee.
Councilman Turner.
So, another clarification question. So we're objecting for, we're going to deny the zoning if we go with the motion that Mr. Lambert made now?
No, this is.
Substitute
motion to send it back to.
Mr. Lawler's motion to send it back to.
So
planning
yes is
department.
send it back, and no is not send it back?
Yes is send it back, is to refer it back to planning and zoning. No is to not send it back to planning and zoning.
And accept the recommendation.
And we vote on the original motion after that.
If need.
No.
Councilman Satterlee.
No.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Kluwat.
Yes.
Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
No.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Dawson.
Yes, you forgot
Vice-
Mr. Joseph.
Vice Chairman.
Oh, sorry.
Oliver Joseph.
Yes. You're trying to get me confused.
Yes, 3 nays.
3 nays. The motion carries. Referred back. Okay, item number 18 is passed on, applicant pulled. Item number 19, introduction of ordinance to revoke as an existing 15-foot servitude located across the southern property line, lots 37A, 37B, 37C of William E. Brooks property, moved to council agenda via UDC. Have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lawler to introduce. Any discussion? Any opposition? Ordinance is introduced. Item number 20, introduction of ordinance ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, on November 18, 2017, to authorize the amendment of Article 5, Section 5-04C2 of the Home Rule Charter for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, to change the voting requirement from 2/3 vote of the governing authority to 2/3 vote of the governing authority members present at the vote of the employees appeal, to be effective on January 1, 2018, making application to the State Bond Commission and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Motion.
A motion by Councilman Satterlee to introduce.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any opposition? Ordinance is introduced. Item number 21, introduction of ordinance to purchase the property by Fire District Number 1 from Amy Gotro.
Motion.
Second.
And a motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any opposition? Ordinance is introduced. Item number 22, introduction of ordinance, temporary ordinance suspending Unified Land Development Code Section 17-507 and temporarily amending said fill requirements. And
Motion.
a motion by Councilman Lawler to introduce.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Councilman Satterlee. Any discussion? Any opposition?
Objection.
Have an objection? Have
Discussion, not objection.
I don't think we can discuss.
a discussion. Councilman Satterlee.
Yes, I'm just curious about, in reading the language of this.
You can't discuss an introduction.
You can't have any discussion. It's just introduction.
Next meeting, we have a
Next
public
meeting,
hearing.
when you move
Right.
the ordinance, when you have your discussion, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I will hold water to the end just because of the late hour. We have discussed, however, before at this stage, but not that matters. I will withdraw my discussion.
Thank you. So we have a motion to introduce in a second, and we have an objection. Ms. McKee.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilman Satterlee.
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
No.
Councilman Kluwat.
No.
Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
No.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Chairman Dawson.
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Joseph.
Yes.
That surprise you?
4 nays.
4 nays. Motion, the ordinance is introduced.
Interesting.
Public hearings. Number 23, reading of ordinance, budget amendment number 4 to amend the 2017 budget. Mr. Parrington.
An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating 2017 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension adopted by Ascension Parish Council on the 17th day of November 2016. Section 1. The Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating 2017 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. Operating budget, Fire District Number 2, expenditures, operating supplies, purchase radios, $14,500, acquisitions, vehicles and equipment, purchase of fire truck, $220,000. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Public hearing.
Motion to open.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Johnson. Any opposition?
Second.
Motion to move the ordinance, who's that by?
Motion to close. Motion to
Oh, motion to close, sorry. Motion to close by Councilman
Second.
Johnson, second by Councilman Joseph. Any opposition? Public hearing is closed. Have the ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Johnson to move the ordinance. Any discussion, any opposition? Ordinance is adopted. Item number 26, reading of the ordinance modification of the Unified Land Code related to commercial parking requirements. Mr. Parrington.
Whereas Ascension Parish, a local government subdivision, is defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution, 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body of the zoning and land use regulations within this jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt the ordinances regulating the lands and use of land and property. Whereas Ascension Parish Office of Planning and Development has developed the commercial parking regulations in place for Ascension Parish are more restrictive than those in the neighboring parishes and those in place for the city of Gonzales. Ascension Parish currently requires for retail and commercial building one parking space for every 200 square feet of gross floor area. Gonzales currently requires one parking space for every 250 feet of floor area, but excludes the square footage of storage areas, hallways, and restrooms. Additionally, the current minimum size of a parking space is 200 square feet, which in many cases is excessive and approximately 10% larger than those of the city of Gonzales, which requires parking spaces a minimum of 9 feet by 20 feet. Whereas it has been submitted to the governing authority that through the recommendation of the Planning Commission that it adopt the standards currently in place for retail and commercial buildings within the city of Gonzales in the calculation of required numbers of parking spaces and the minimum parking space size as the new Ascension Parish standard for construction within the parish. All other requirements pertaining to off-street parking will remain in place. Whereas by accepting this recommendation, the certain provisions of the current Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code must be revised and amended to accomplish such change. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that hereby accepts the changes to Section 17-2081B and Section 17-2081F3 and the deletion of Section 17-2081A6 of the Unified Land Development Code is recommended by the Ascension Parish Planning Commission and the Office of Planning and Development that Section 17-2081B, Section 17-2081F3, and Section 17-2082A6 of the Unified Land Development Code be amended and revised and or deleted as follows. Section 17-201AB be revised and amended to read, minimum off-street parking spaces. The minimum number of off-street parking spaces for each type of structure shall be land use single-family residences, 2 spaces, apartment buildings, hotels, motels in 1 bed, and breakfast establishment, 1 space for each bed, retail and commercial, 1 space for each 250 square feet of floor area. Calculation of floor area shall exclude storage areas and halls and restrooms. Public assembly buildings, including schools, auditoriums, theaters, churches, funeral homes, 1 space for each 5 seats of seating capacity. Industrial buildings, 1 space for each employee on the largest shift. Section 17-2081F3 be revised and amended to read, each parking space shall not be less than 9 feet by 20 feet, except for single-family residences. All parking spaces, aisles, and connecting drives will be surfaced with permanent dust-free paving. Section 17-2082A6 of Appendix 2 Unified Land Development Code be deleted in its entirety from the code. In the event any portion of the ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of any competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Public hearing.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Cagnolati, second by Councilwoman Cassow. A motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to close the public
Motion
hearing.
on the ordinance.
Second. Motion by Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to move the ordinance. Any discussion, any opposition? Or, was that too early?
A little bit too quick there. I'd like to thank our staff on this. We've been working on this for a while and appreciate all the hard work.
Okay. Our executive session. We have a prospective litigation after formal written demand, and we have two speakers on this. And first, we have Mr. St. Romain, Barry St. Romain. Oh, Jermaine, I'm sorry.
Good evening. The last time I stood before you, I asked you gentlemen to do the right thing, and ladies. When I walked out of here, I was told in so many words, we screwed up, hire a lawyer and sue. I would have to ask, what kind of parish do I live in when the innocent victim has to hire an attorney and not the violator? Think about that for a second. The innocent victim, not the violator, has to spend money. The only thing my wife and I are at fault of in this whole thing was being too nice and not raising hell. Is this right? The government knew all along that there were issues, but nobody wanted to deal with it. Then we're told, we can't put you on the agenda. It's in legal. Legal has it, we can't discuss it. This is the same legal department that you're going to listen to tonight. The one who dropped the ball. The one who dropped the ball the second time, after the ball was dropped the first time, when this permit was issued in the wrong location. I have in my possession several letters, some to the property owner, some interdepartmental letters, all of them stating that if he didn't follow certain things, it will be turned over to legal and enforcement would be done. That never happened. I also have documents like a drainage document when the road was proposed that are incomplete, questions were asked that were never answered. After all this, still approved more work. Knowing these violations existed, this government still approved more work. So here we are, now being told that there may be a statute of limitations coming into play. I'm not an attorney, but I do know a little bit about them, and Google's a great thing. The court can apply continuing wrong theory. The fact that the statute of limitations for a written or verbal contract is 10 years, and we're not there yet. So every time I called, or my wife called this parish and asked, where is this at? And we were told this being worked on, that's a contract or a contract extension. I'm going to ask you again to do the right thing and let your legal department now deal with the aftermath. Let them deal with it. Do what you're supposed to do and protect the people, like you said earlier, Mr. Sadler. I understand they're scared and it's going to cost some money, but your job is to enforce your ordinances. Your job may be to deal with your budget, and I understand that because it's the parish money. But your job is not to protect the parish bank account in this case. I'll leave you with two things. If this had happened, say, next to Pelican Point, would I be standing here this many years later? I think we all know the answer to that. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, if this happened next to your home, how would you vote? And if your answer is different than the way you vote tonight, I expect to see a resignation in the morning.
Okay, Mrs. St. Germain.
Good evening, council members. I do have a photo to put up. I don't know if you can see it okay. Some of the items on the agenda that were discussed tonight were complicated and confusing. This gentleman, there was a lot of deep discussion about his land and zoning. That opportunity never happened for me to experience with what's next door to my home. It just got done. My situation is cut and dry. There's laws and ordinances. They're violated. The violations should be corrected. I shouldn't have to do anything with it. I notified the zoning department many years ago and all along the way. In this picture, you can see this industry next to my home. All of the grass area now is concrete. He's been building it up, and now there's water coming onto my land. I let the zoning department know every step of the way when this was happening. You're looking at approximately 4 lots on my side with the homes on it. There's 5 more to the left and about 8 or 9 more to the right. There's buses all along the way. These are subdivided lots that we could sell or someone could build a beautiful home on, but I don't think anyone's going to want to do that. I'm so tired of talking about this, but I will never get tired of trying to defend my home and defend my land. And should I even need to do that? Who should have to defend their land when there's laws and ordinances in place already? Here's a picture showing the water on my land. Never used to get it until the land was being built up next to my home, of which I let the parish know, please let them stop. He already did it in the back. I see what's happening. It's going to happen to my home, and you see where it's coming from. This should have been put on an agenda a long time ago and taken care of in a professional manner and put everything in writing from the get-go and fix the situation. Keep this parish, and also there's commercial land at Highway 1. So when he started all of this, he had a place to put this, and he has other land where he could put this, not next to my home. Keep the parish a place people want to live in. Do people want to live where illegal actions, old politics are present, and games are being played? I don't think so. And that's what's happening, and that's going to set an example of what can happen to other people. Protecting the parish's residents means protecting me, protecting my land, and my right to a peaceful life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have executive session. We also have item number 30, which is Parish of Ascension versus Safeco Insurance Company, heavy equipment damage. No public speakers on that.
Motion to go into executive
We've
session.
got a motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Johnson, to go in executive session. Any opposition?
Roll call. Roll call.
Got in a hurry.
Councilman Turner?
Yes.
Councilman Satterlee?
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Councilman Kluat?
Yes.
Councilman Lawler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso?
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert?
Yes.
Councilman Cagnolati?
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman Dawson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Joseph?
Yes.
Motion to reconvene, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Joseph. Any opposition? Okay. Item number 29.
Item number 29, I would make a motion that we go outside to get legal counsel on this and consult them to get a second opinion on this.
Second.
Well, motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Satterley to contract outside counsel. Any discussion? Any opposition? Here.
No opposition or comment, Mr. Chairman? That would
Okay.
mean that this parish is bearing the burden of that getting the outside counsel
Correct.
financially. Thank you.
Correct.
Just wanted that in the record.
Okay, any opposition? Further discussion? Motion carries. Item number 30, Parish of Ascension versus Safeco Insurance Company, heavy equipment damage.
Make a motion that we accept the insurance settlement.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman
Johnson.
Johnson to accept this.
And then I recuse myself.
Well, get out. I'm sorry.
We're having trouble with that tonight.
I gotta get up and leave. I'm just
Don't get mad,
Okay.
just leave.
Let the record reflect that Councilman Turner recused himself.
Okay, now the soccer contract's for 20 years. Don't tell us.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Lawler, a second by Councilman Cagnalotti to accept the
And those
settlement
motions were made after the recusal.
And to authorize the parish president to sign the settlement.
and authorize the parish president to sign the.
So
Any opposition? Any discussion? Item number 31.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Cagnalotti, second by Councilwoman Casso. Meeting adjourned.